All right, we are live. Don't you love when people tell you we are live or we're back? We're back from wherever we were. It's like, yeah, because you were all waiting for us to get back, right? Anyways, welcome to the year-end special of Rule Zero. I am Raul Tomasi. I will be your host. I have with me Rich Cooper and Troy Francis, and we have a whole host of characters already in the waiting room right now to talk about the year that was 2019. We'll have Ryan here in just a minute. He's on his way in, and if John decides to join us, he's more than happy to, or more than welcome to come join us. But I do have Rich, I do have Troy. I got Conk. I see you in the chat there, or in the waiting room. I've got Jack Napier on tap. I've got Vince from Masculinity Geek. I've got Drew Bay. We will also be having Abu American and a few other notable characters that will be dropping by as we get into it today. I need to go and drop that out, and now we're ready to go. Cool. So we did this show last year. Troy, you weren't a part of this, but Rich was. And we were on that other podcast that we do. Oh, here's John. John, of course, was on that podcast as well. Welcome, John. Thank you for joining us today. And then Ryan will have the last seat. We can on the thing with how we're going to do this today, by the way, is we only have 6 spots on StreamYard. So if I boot you and I bring you back in, or if I keep you in the waiting room, I apologize. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the last couple of seats that we have to get guests on here, our invited guests first. And then a little bit later in the show, I'm going to open up the chat room, or open up the chat room, but I'm going to open up the waiting room for people who want to just come in and give their 2 cents. So how we're going to work this is we're going to talk for a little bit. We're going to give our prognostications. We're going to talk about what we talked about last year at this time, and what came true, what didn't come true, what we've been doing for the last year, where we see things going, not just in 2020, but also into the next decade, because we're changing out a decade here. And so things going on in the manosphere, things going on in politics, things going on in whatever part of your life that you wish to review is fine with me. So how I'm going to work this is when I bring you on as a guest, guys. Here's Ryan. Ryan is in. There we go. Ryan, there we go. Okay. The circle is complete. Thank you for joining us, Ryan.
Is that my camera or is that a background? Oh, that's the background. I'm like, what's that white shit?
So this time last year, Ryan, by the way, let me just finish that thought. I've got the waiting room is getting really full, and that's fine with me. I'm going to leave the 6th seat open for guests, so they can come on, give us their predictions, or give us what it is that they thought was the highlight of their 2019, and then I'll move on to the next guy. So the way we have to work this is I've got to keep you guys brief. So please, no more than 5 minutes if you've got something to say or whatever, because I've got quite a few people. And then, like I said, I'm going to open it up to the panel. I'm going to open it up to the actual chat room here about an hour. So let's get started. First off, we did. I got Hotep Jesus. Hotep, I see you in the chat there. I think we'll bring on Hotep here in just a minute.
Nice.
So we got Hotep down in the waiting room right now. But how we're going to work this is we're going to talk about what we did and what we see happening in 2019. So let's start here first with the panel. Rich, what was the highlight of 2019 for you?
That's a question I should have had a little bit of
had a real answer for.
Yeah, like a moment for thought on the highlight for 2019. I don't know. Let me see. The highlight has not been around YouTube. I'll be honest. YouTube's been a bit of a disappointment, especially lately. It's more like the connections that I've built, with guys like you, with public broadcasts, behind the scenes, the conversations that we have, my men's community, the 1%, the workshops, and the book reviews that we do. Those are the things that have been like the highlights for me when it comes to the content creation around this and really getting my ideas out into the book, because I've written a book in the past, but it's been on credit card debt relief, like how to settle your own debt. And I've been at this for a couple of years. I'm a terrible writer. Even by the time the final edit's done, I'm sure I'm going to be criticized for the flow, but it's the content that's going to matter. It's going to be a distilled version of artwork around the red pill. I've taken a lot of the stuff that I've learned from Rollo as kind of like the baseline and kind of expanded my thoughts into it, leaning into things like the creation of wealth and my interpretation of the way that things work in the sexual marketplace, especially with divorce and other components into that. So that's been the highlights for me, really.
Okay, cool. Troy, what's a highlight of 2019 for you? What stands out the most that happened, whether it's a manosphere or your personal life, whatever?
Well, I mean, at the risk of being cheesy, obviously coming on to Rule Zero, but getting to know you guys better and sort of finding, because I think what's been interesting this year is the split that we've seen in the manosphere, and I'm sure we'll probably touch on this more later, but right. And the dividing lines have kind of been drawn, and I think it's really cool to meet like-minded people and to be able to explore those ideas that you have with like-minded people who are coming from a similar sort of position to you. Because before, I was always very conscious that we were all part of this big whole, and yet there were people that I just didn't agree with at all, or seemed to be coming from a completely different place from me. And there's nothing wrong with that in principle, but I think that in a sense the split that happens sort of needed to happen because the ideas were too disparate, within the sphere. The only other thing I'd say from a personal point of view is doing a lot more video content, I think, has been really good for me. It's been something I've resisted for a long time because I've always been primarily a blogger, but I think doing YouTube's been a lot of fun for me. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been commercially, it's paying the benefits as well now, as well as sort of doing live streaming. So like Rich said, I think it's great just to be able to articulate your views and your thoughts. And for me, video and live streaming has definitely been a really welcome addition to getting my sort of thoughts or my own particular take on this stuff out there.
Cool. Ryan, what has been the highlight of your year? What really stands out at you, Ryan?
Honestly, it's been my whole life to kind of get to a certain point where I can enjoy what I've done, and I'm finally there. After leaving the military, it's been about 5 years now. I finally got a chance to see Ireland. I haven't been to London yet. I'm getting on there. Another chance to go to see Greece. Tons of travel all the time. New tiles, condo, great downtown. It's basically like the comfortable life I've been working so hard in my 20s to kind of get. I kind of have it now, which is awesome. Starting a business. I always wanted to start a business, but I'm from a farm and then the public sector, and I had no idea what I was doing. And this is the first year where I'm like, you know what? Let's just do it. And I actually had an idea, and it's been following through, and it's done better than I thought it could. I was actually talking to John about this one where I basically walked away from like a 6-figure income to take the risk of doing it on my own, which is awesome. But it's more rewarding, and that's the part I like.
Yeah.
So that part's been great. Legalized weed in Canada, found out, tried it, not a fan of it, whatever. It's good to know it's there, I guess. And the book, I'm with Rich on the book. I'm one chapter away from finishing my second draft, and my God, why did I not do one of these earlier? This is so much fun. I, like Rich, I'm a horrible writer. I'm a much better editor than a writer, but you know what? After I write the whole thing out twice and edit it, it almost looks like it's ready for somebody to edit it properly. Yeah. It's going to be awesome. I just can't, as far as like the man, like whatever. Spurgs are going to spurg. I'm actually, I guess this is the bittersweet thing is I am surprised how bad it is for the average man and how much of that is self-inflicted. And as much as we rag on El Presidente, he's kind of been like a wonderful teaching lesson for me. And so I do want to show some appreciation to that. And that's not a dig. Like, that's how far along people are and how much help they need. So that's me. That's what I got. That and Lethal Weapon's awesome.
All right, John, I think I know what your highlight is, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely body language mastery this year. The reception, quite honestly speaking, when I launched it in Q1, I was thinking that like I would probably get 20 people enrolled, and I would consider that a solid W. And then in Q1, I had over 120 people sign up. And then Q2, again, 120 plus. And then Q3, I had 130. Well, actually more than that. No, I mean, I'm at 460 right now, and registration's open right now as well. And, you know, the popularity of this thing has just been blown through the roof. So being able to meet up with these guys in real life, and also to do the weekly coaching with the guys, not even weekly, excuse me, the daily coaching with these guys for the 3 weeks, which all of you men on this panel have been a part of. And then having the, you know, my little event, the Hot Dude Con, like going out there, meeting these guys, shaking their hands, and really seeing the positive impact. And I'm not talking like positive feel good impact. I'm talking like I've helped guys get, you know, $20,000, $30,000 increase to their annual salary, which may not be a lot to some people, but for some other people, that's a lot of money. Guys who haven't had sex in years, having multiple girlfriends, guys who are trapped in relationships that they didn't want to be in, having the courage to get out and, you know, really just live life the way they want to be, and really just living that, you know, living that hot dude life. And it's really good just to help a lot of people. And I'm really humbled to be accepted, you know, by you, all you guys here. I know I'm kind of like the newcomer of the group because all of you guys have like long, deep standing clout in the manosphere. So I know I just, I'm just humbled, and I'm thankful to meet all you guys and to help all you guys. And I've learned a lot from all you guys, and hopefully I've taught some of you guys some stuff. And yeah, it's just been a great year. And I think 2020 is just going to be really good for us because we finally, we got all the losers out of our group, to be quite honest with you. And I think now we really have a solid core of men here that we can really do some solid, impactful, meaningful work. And I look forward to that in the upcoming new year.
Cool. Well, obviously the highlight for my, I'm getting an echo from somebody, but obviously the highlight from my year, I wish it could have been a little bit more positive, but of course, all the events that happened in June, I think actually were the highlight of my year. Simply because it taught me a valuable lesson. It taught me a lesson of, I think Ryan was the one who told me, he says, you need to be red-pilled about guys. You need to be red-pilled about, you know, the development of a lot of egos in the same room all the time. And I thought this was very interesting. My lesson was this is, and Rich was just mentioning this in our private chat this morning. In 2017, when I was listening to a certain president talk about the future of the manosphere, or defeating feminism, or coming up with these lofty, idealistic, you know, nonsense, I don't know, proclamations, I guess. I was taking a lot of notes. If you've ever seen me on video, or if you've ever seen me on the live Red Man groups that we did, I'm always taking notes, and that's me. I just do that. I take notes so I can remember what's going on. And I started going over my notes for this show over the last year, the year before that, and it struck me that I took some notes during that time, and I really wish I would have listened to my instincts a little bit more. So if I have any apologies, it's an apology for subjecting everybody here to all of that nonsense and all of the crap that's going on. But it taught me a lesson in that we can do something better. We can do something good with this. So what I want to talk about next, I got Hotep. I see you in there. I'm going to bring you on here in just a second. But the second thing I wanted to get into is, what are you guys planning to do in the coming decade? And where do you see the manosphere? Where do you see gender dynamics? Where do you see all this stuff going? Not just into 2020, but also into the next decade. So, Rich.
Going in the next decade, you're all fucked. It's really what it boils down to. If you don't smarten up and open the expanse of your belief system. A lot of us have relied on a very narrow set of beliefs, which don't particularly work that well, especially if it came from places like culture, religion, TV shows, sitcoms, family values, and stuff like that. You know, the unplugging that I went through was pretty fucking dramatic, you know, if I'm being honest. Like it wasn't a 45-degree change in direction. It was almost a 180-degree change in direction of my beliefs and the way that I saw things. So I think it's incredibly important coming into this new decade, into 2020, with how hostile the landscape is to men. And I'm not just talking about family law. We've seen things like Me Too's. We've seen problems like paternity fraud. Like, we've basically seen the preservation and the protection of the feminine imperative at the cost of the masculine. And I think it's incredibly important that guys going forward, leaning into 2020 and into the new decade, are very, very attentive, extremely attentive to these realities of the landscapes that we continuously talk about. I mean, we often say the same thing in different ways amongst ourselves. And there's times which we sometimes do disagree on certain concepts, but even then we're not too far off. But take a look at the kinds of results that this panel of men have gotten. Like, we see John, who's opened up his business and made a hell of a lot more money and influenced and impacted more people. We see Ryan, a guy that's quit his job and started to write, full time in this space and create content. Does the best cooking videos that I've seen, in a long time. We got a guy like Troy, who's, been a blogger before, that's great on video. I mean, he's got a face for video. We got Rolo, a guy that's always been a writer that I encouraged a few years ago to start doing something on YouTube, and there he is doing regular shows. We have all of these guys out here that are chasing excellence, putting their own dent in the universe. And gentlemen, keep doing it. I mean, if you feel like you want to broadcast, get out there and hit the same upload button that we all do. Create your own Rule Zero, whatever the hell it is. Get a message out that's influential and positive, that impacts masculinity in a good way. That's really what 2020 needs to be about. That's what the next decade needs to be about, is making yourself your own mental point of origin and unplugging from the bullshit that didn't serve you and do the stuff that does work, which is what we talk about.
Right. Excellent. Troy.
Well, I agree with Rich in the sense that I think things are only going to get tougher and more divided, really, as we go into the next decade. But I don't necessarily think that's all bad, if that makes sense. I think that if you look at something like the dating marketplace, for example, I mean, people go on obviously, we know the story. We've got Tinder, we've got Instagram, we've got Snapchat, we've got all of these different apps and devices and ways of communicating, and that's completely reshaped the sexual marketplace. So now you can get a girl in a village in the middle of Ukraine who's getting flown over to Dubai by some rich millionaire playboys because of connectivity, and that's completely changed the sexual marketplace in ways that we would never have predicted 10, 15 years ago. But that is the state of play. And I mean, I think it's not getting any better. Do you know what I mean? Like, the genie is not going to go back into the bottle. It's not gonna revert suddenly back to how it was in 1950 or anything like that. These pressures, and we can't even predict now exactly how it's going to happen, but these pressures caused by technology and by the changes in society and stuff, they're just going to continue. So I think what that means is that, like Rich said, I mean, guys need to be top of their game. And you need to look at the circumstances as they are and think, okay, so what can I do? What do I want from my life? And how can I get the things that I want in my life in the best and most efficient manner possible, while also hopefully helping some other people along the way as well, if at all possible. So that's the way I see it. The world is becoming ever more complex. It's fast moving. The challenges that we face today we'll probably be laughing at in 5-10 years, because we'll think, God, things were so simple back then in 2019, 2020. But what are you going to do? I mean, there are also huge opportunities there, both in terms of, dating, in terms of travel, in terms of business. I mean, again, as Rich said, I mean, we've all got the same upload button. You can create your own TV show now. You can publish your own books, create your own radio show. It's incredible, the opportunities that we have. So I think be aware, know what's going on, understand yourself, work out what you want, and then work out how best to negotiate to get the things that you want in the most efficient way possible going forward.
Cool. Ryan, where do you see us going? Where are we going, Ryan?
I honestly have no idea. I hate looking too far into the future because every time I've done it, I get it wrong.
Yeah. I
just focus on what's right in front of you. And
we'll talk about predictions in a minute, but yeah, I feel you.
Honestly, just set your options up as best they are. Like, I'll use an example here. It's not talking trash. It's just the way it is. So I remember when we were doing Red Man Group, and this is a perfect example of all of this. We were doing Red Man Group, and then we had a little meeting between all of us, and you were talking about, when you guys are doing this, I want to see us get to a point where you start getting paid for your work. And like I've done corporate enough where I know that I promise you guys will get paid eventually. I already know that speech is like, all right, just assume nothing.
Right. Yeah.
No offense.
Nah, it's true.
Maybe you meant
That's
well,
true.
your heart was in the right place.
I did. Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I need to start my own show because clearly if I just sit here and wait for the stars to align, it's not going to happen. And talk about a guy who can't predict the future, but clearly did. I'm like, I'm going to start Red Morning. And that show has been awesome right now. I know 2,000 views isn't big by YouTube standards, but it's way bigger than the Red Man Group. So clearly I was smart enough to know options and abundance are a good thing. So I would say for the future, just be prepared, as anti-fragile as you possibly can. Like I said, YouTube might go away tomorrow. So obviously I'm doing, affiliate marketing, everything else that everybody's doing, so that when something happens that's unexpected, and there always is, that you've got 4 or 5 things that you can rely on. If my girl decides to leave me next year because, I don't know, somebody slid into her DMs and took her away, well, I'll be fine. Like lose 3 more pounds of Christmas weight and I'm back on Tinder slinging it. YouTube decides to ban my channel like Coach Red Pill there, and I'll be fine. I'll be doing it on some other platform. I'll be doing a different thing.
Nice.
So as far as the future goes, I don't know where it is, but short of the zombies coming over that hill and taking out the power grid, like I'll be fine because I'm prepared for every individual thing to go wrong. And I think if any
come
guys
over to my
not
place,
doing
Ryan.
that,
I got all the guns and the ammo over here. Set up some sandbags and fuck them up.
nice.
John, what do you see happening in the future?
I've got a pretty bold prediction for 2020 and what's happening, but I don't know if you guys will be on board with me in this one, but it is pretty bold. I think Red Man Group will finally get 30 live viewers per episode. And I'm really, don't hold me to that. It's a high standard for those guys. But on more of a serious note, I truly think that for the guys that are taking action to make their life better, life is going to get easier and life is going to get better. Because for me, 2018, I took a really, really bold move. I quit my cush corporate job in Tokyo. The company I used to work for is the official sponsor of the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. I quit that job. I decided to go headfirst into this online masculinity thing. And it's one thing when the results work for you, but it's another thing when you give the results to people and it also works for them. And I'm not talking like, a guy he went from being a complete incel to now he got 5 phone numbers. Nobody wants phone numbers. Guys want results. Guys want to sleep with women. Okay. Guys want to make more money. Guys want to be more physically fit. And the results that I have been getting for myself this year have been phenomenal. And the results that have been happening for my men are also phenomenal. And increasingly, I see more and more men complaining and whining about on the internet about how that, life is so hard and this and that. But the reality is, if you had a Skype conversation with these guys, they're overweight, they're covered in acne, they don't work hard, they work some dead end job. They're a delivery driver at a pizza joint and they're 35, So for the guys that do take action, life is going to get easier. You're going to have more money. You're going to have more women. You're going to have more fulfillment, more traveling, more happiness, whatever it is. And for the guys who don't take action, it's going to get worse. So for the guys that it's going to become a thing between the haves and the have-nots. And if you take action, it's never been easier. Rich says it all the time. And I used to think, I didn't think he was right, but now I'm 100% no, he's right. He's
remember that conversation we had about a year ago?
Dude, yeah, the consultation Rich gave me, he's like, yeah, you could easily get up to $250,000 a year. I was like, okay, this guy's being a real nice guy. I didn't believe him. And now here we are at the end of 2019 and it's come true. And so the guys who take action and the guys who make their purpose to make themselves better, your life will get better. Things will get easier. You'll have more money, more women. Then you'll know what to do with. The guys that don't take action, it's going to get worse for you. Life is going to suck worse, and it's going to be terrible. So, you make your choice, man. We're not here to coddle you. We're not here to hold your hand and tell you everything's going to be all right. You do the work or you don't do the work. If you do the work, you succeed. If you don't do the work, you will fail, period.
True. All right, guys. For myself, I guess I will let you guys know. I'll let you in on a few cool things I think are going to happen with me, anyways. Obviously, I've got book 4 that's coming out. For people who wanted to know, that's I plan on publishing it on Q1 of 2020, so I'm looking at probably March right now. For that. This has been a long time coming, and unfortunately, a lot of the events that happened in 2019 sort of set me back a little bit on the. I was hoping to have this book done by October of this year, but that didn't work out for me. So, and I'm kind of glad it didn't, because sometimes when you take your time with a book like this, other things sort of develop and you have new ideas. And I think really I as an author, I'm still kind of developing, and I'm kind of learning really the process of writing right now. At the same time, I've written 3 books. I'm still kind of learning how to be a better author, I think. And as a result, I think this book is going to be really phenomenal. I'm aiming it at a religious audience, as well as a red pill audience, which I've never done before. I've never sort of written outside of the sphere. So this is, like I said, been eye-opening for me, because I think where we need to go in the future here is we need to sort of break outside of the manosphere, what we call the manosphere. I think we really, in the coming decade, I really think we need to reach out more beyond just the guys that we know on Twitter or like the e-celebrity kind of thing. I think we need to reach out beyond that. It's nice to it's nice to go on Joe Rogan. It's nice to go on large I guess new, for lack of a better term, new media sources. But I think it's time that the manosphere, the red pill, or whatever we call, I don't even know what to call this. I think really that's something we need to sort of discuss at some point, is we got to stop calling it the manosphere. We got to stop calling it the red pill. We've got to find something that's going to really identify.
I still propose rational men.
Rational men. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think going forward into the future, we're going to end up being a real threat to the mainstream at some point, but we've got to get into the mainstream, I think. And at least we're getting recognized in the mainstream. And then, like what I was saying before, this time last year, in my State of the Manosphere address in 2018, as well as our last end of the year episode, I was saying this, is that we've got to understand that the manosphere, whatever we're calling this, is going to have a PR problem. People are going to see this, particularly in an election year, and they're going to say, oh, those manosphere guys, oh, those red pill guys. We're already seeing this right now. And we're so busy throwing rocks at each other that we're not going to be prepared for it when, the next tragedy happens and somebody wants to point the finger at masculinity or conventional masculinity. I think it's time that I don't think we need a president. I think it's great that it is still more or less decentralized. That's good. Did Ryan have to leave? I guess he had to leave. So that's my predictions, is that I want to see us, I would like to see the manosphere sort of break out of what we are right now. Oh, here comes Ryan. I'll bring Ryan back in. Give me a second. All right. So we have one guest. Actually, we have several guests, but I would like to bring on Hotep Jesus first, because he, I don't know what his time frame is, so I kind of want to put him in as well. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Hotep, but Hotep's a good friend of mine. Where is he? There he is.
Yeah, Quincy put me on him. He's awesome.
There we go. Hotep, I got you in. How are you?
What's up, bro? How you?
Hey, how are you? How are you?
What's up, man?
Hotep is kind of one of those guys who's like, he's in the sphere, but he's also outside the sphere. Exactly what I've been talking about for a while. Hotep, I want to ask you. One of the reasons I want you on here is this. Gosh, what was it? I think it was probably like February or March of last year. I was trying to get you on for a show with me and with on this show as well. And I was hoping I was going to be able to get you on as a speaker for that other convention, but we know how that ended. So, but Hotep, you're out. You're kind of you've got your finger on the pulse of a lot of different spheres. So I wanted to talk to you and see first of all, what was the highlight of your year in 2019, and what do you see happening, or where do you see all of these spheres going, I guess, into 2020?
Yeah, so the highlight of my career obviously was being on Joe Rogan. You know, that goes without being said. 2020, we're heading into election season, which means that a lot of flags of the false kind will be popping up, and a lot of we'll have black issues, gay issues, female issues, anything the Democratic Party can latch on to fearmonger people into voting.
Good old wedge issues.
Yeah. So, buckle your boots. Going in for a wild ride. It's 2020. I feel like 2020 is going to be what everybody thought the year 2000 was going to be, right? You know, when they said Y2K, end of the world type stuff. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I think that culturally it's going to be cataclysmic.
Yeah.
How do you mean though culturally? Could you pontificate on that a little?
Well, we have transgender bathrooms, right? So what we are going to have to accept as a society is not going to be in our best interest. What we're going to have is, every single minority is going to take precedence over the family, over the society, over the individual. And we're just going to go down this weird hole of where ancient Greece and ancient Rome went with just debauchery and foolery.
You know what that reminds me of? Do you ever see those middle-aged women that they see stray cats and they keep picking them up and saving them, but then they got like 15 cats at home and the guy's just covered in cat shit?
Yeah, I got this thing I call them malls, right? Middle-aged white women.
Oh, I've stolen that so much.
and that is really the secret demographic to America. And I don't think people understand how important they are, but white women got the most power in America. The problem is hit or miss with them all, right? You either got the ones that are like super crazy and liberal, or you got the ones that kind of got a good head in their shoulder.
Oh, did I lose him?
Froze up.
Oh, I love when he goes off about the apex predators.
Yeah, the maws.
Yeah.
Oh,
This thing's like
there he is. Okay, he's come back. I got him back. Go ahead, Hotep.
Yeah, but white women, when they speak up, people listen. So, the white man is sort of looked at as racist and imperialist. So his word is.
Oh man, I keep losing him. Hotep. There you go. Okay, I got.
Yeah, his word is going to fall on deaf ears. But white women are going to have to step up. White women are going to have to. They're the dark horse, so to speak.
I don't see
X-factor.
Apex predator.
I don't see them stepping up. To be honest, I think they're too lazy.
Yeah, like
Just
I'm starting
put a
to notice
heartfelt
that,
thing.
a lot of these white women are starting to get eaten by their own, right? They're starting to get eaten by the left. Like they have more privilege than other people and they need to kind of chill out sort of thing.
Well,
I think the silent majority thing is for real though. Like I think talk about predictions. I think Trump is going to win in a landslide and it's going to red pill a lot of people too.
I think that's likely to be the case. And I mean, we've seen that across Europe. We've obviously had the conservative landslide in the UK with Boris winning the election, and, the other countries. So I think you're right about Trump. I think the impeachment thing is only played in his favor, really. So yeah, I think it's I think you're absolutely right there, John.
I was going to say,
I think we're underestimating. That's my big problem with the manosphere. The manosphere comes off as anti-woman, right? And I'm not anti-woman at all. I love women. I think women are fucking great. You know what I mean? Yeah. We have to be careful with our rhetoric when we come at women because we actually force women to the left. We force them to become enemies and say, look, this is what we went through during women's suffrage. When women came to America, they were treated as subservient servants and slaves, right? It's not humanistic. That's not humane at all, But there are a large segment of women. I deal with them every day. Middle-aged white women say, Hotep Jesus, we love what you're doing. We're behind you 100%. I think there's a silent majority that are afraid to speak up because of the evil left. Yep. But we have to watch our rhetoric when we talk about women because we push good women away.
Hey, Hotep, I got a question for you. So you said the manosphere comes off as anti-female or anti-feminine. Can you give some examples? Because I'm not totally.
Yeah, I mean,
clear
I just heard somebody in here. I don't know who it was, but they said, something negative about, they said, oh, what did they say? They said, oh, the woman or something. I can't even remember, but it's just like whoa, like why would you say that? You know what I mean? But that's the impression you get, right? You get that impression. So for example, when it comes to branding, right?
Yeah.
Branding isn't what you say your brand is. Branding is what people say, the audience, what they say your brand is. You really don't have much control over that. So if people start saying, yo, you got a He-Man's Woman Hater Club, you probably do. Whether you think so or not.
But that's the thing. We don't have
a problem with that, though.
Either.
Like, I don't think that the manosphere as a whole, and I don't like that term. It sounds like a gay nightclub in my estimation. But I don't think that the manosphere as a whole is anti-femininity. The way that I see it, I mean, the men that I'm with and the guys that I might follow, I see as pro-femininity. I think it's good for women, right? But you're right. Branding isn't what you try to make it. It's what people perceive it to be. I totally agree with what you're saying. And that's the problem, though. But anytime you do anything... See, because when you have conversations about concepts that go down a rabbit hole that involves a red pill, you're going to shine an uncomfortable light on the feminine imperative. And it's just the reality of it. And anytime you might point to something or shine a spotlight on something that may not promote women or femininity or something that might be in their best interest, it's going to be deemed as anti-women. All it is the truth, right? But you're right, totally, 100%.
Yeah. I don't see the manosphere as that at all. I don't think it's anti-female at all. But when people say it's anti-female, I can see how they come to that conclusion.
Oh, yeah.
Because of some of the rhetoric where people say, where I say, hey, middle-aged white women, da-da-da-da, and then somebody says, oh, nah, women ain't it. It's just like, what?
Well, That's why I like being hyperbolic. When I say apex predator, it makes them sound like a tiger in the jungle. It's just so ridiculous. If you take it seriously, it's like they're trying to pick a fight. So they'll just misinterpret whatever. Yeah, that's the problem, is that we'd have no gatekeepers. Yeah. You can get some incel guy rant about women for 30 minutes, and he gets associated with you or with Rolo.
Right. Well, I mean, the problem with the term manosphere is it groups a large group of people together, and there's this group of like low tier men that do nothing but complain about women and point and sputter about having their rights taken away, and they kind of collectively get called all the same sort of thing. So that's just part and parcel of the problem. That's why I think
a lot of people
from it.
I think everybody here got called a woman hater at one point or another. Yeah. Everybody on this panel.
Yeah. Well, Hotep is correct in a sense here, because I've got the stats here. I doing my homework for this show. Was it $7 trillion is contributed by women in the United States in consumer and business spending? So while women don't, they'll complain about this imaginary wage gap, but yeah, it is women who are making the decisions with the money that is out there right now. So,
dude, and guys will complain that TV caters to women, but they're spending all the money. So that's how either you spend more than Karen,
right,
or it's going to cater to her sensibilities.
There's 2/3 of consumer wealth in America will belong to women within the next decade. 91% of women say they think that advertisers do not understand them. 85% of purchases and purchase influences are made by women. 50% of products typically marketed to men are purchased by women. 60%, this is the good one, 60% of all personal wealth in the United States is held by women. That's something that when women go, oh man, the wage gap, blah, 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 that's right there should be the stat you throw back at them. All stock ownerships in the United States, women control 51% of that control. Okay.
Can I quickly fluff Hotep though? Just something. Your thing you did on Joe Rogan about that thing you were talking about? I think it was Joe Rogan where you said have sex, but then stop before the money shot and go do your thing. My God, it works. She lost her mind. She took that as a personal challenge of enthusiasm. God bless you, brother. God bless you.
My feeling on the manosphere and the red pill though has always been it should be about truth. It should be about the search for objective reality as near as we can get to it, right? And of course, people are going to disagree and there's going to be different interpretations and stuff. But it should be about looking at human nature and saying, okay, so what's really happening? What really goes on here? Not what we'd like to sugarcoat it as. What's the reality? And that shouldn't be about hating anybody. That's not about hating anybody. That's not about hating women. But we should be able to have an honest conversation. And I think that's the thing. But Rich is right. I mean, there are, because it's a broad church, because there's a lot of different people in this, you know, this space, there are a number of sort of lower tier kind of dudes who do unfortunately come at it from that attitude. But that's certainly not, I think, what any of us are promoting here, and that's certainly not what it should be known as.
I end up getting it from both sides, and I can sort of understand why Hotep would think what he does right now, because I know that right now a lot of what the red pill is getting conflated with other things like MGTOW or MRA. I'm constantly called either these three things. I'm called an MRA, I'm called a MGTOW, or I'm called a PUA. And usually it's a PUA by all of these factions. So whatever boogeyman that they have, that's what they're going to call you. What I find interesting right now, the state of the manosphere as it is right now, is I have more conflicts with the guys in the sphere than I do with the women, with feminists or people like women from outside the sphere. Most of the time, and Pat Campbell will back me up on this, because when I'm on his show, that's a terrestrial radio show, and so that's like out there to the world. It's not just in our one little, sphere, or it's not just in our one little collective right there. But he tells me this all the time, is that the women who are listening to that show, although what I say might frustrate them, they have nothing to come back with, right? They agree with me, but they hate that they agree with me. But it's the guys who listen to it who think that I'm like ruining their chances with the chick that they're trying to get with by revealing these objective truths about women, that throws off their game. Or she won't have sex with me if you say that or you think that. So it's usually guys who are throwing this thing back at me and wanting to challenge me on stuff. So it's and Hotep, I know you've got a book that I did the cover for, which is the Unbreakable Laws of Masculinity, where you're talking about how to be a better guy, how to do these things. And what I think is funny is I think that once your book is out there and it becomes a little bit more available to people, or people pick it up, I think you're probably going to get, this is why I wanted you on. I think you're going to see what happens, and it's going to be mostly guys who are going to challenge you. It won't be the women that are going to challenge you. It will be the guys who have been brought up in what we call the blue pill and conditioned in such a way that they believe these myths that you're trying to break in this book. And one of the reasons I like your book is because people always complain about me, and they say, well, Rollo is just nothing but theory and theoretical kind of stuff, and he's what he says is true, but it's theory. You need to get out there and you need to do stuff. I like your book because it's about practice. It's about going out there, and these are some things that you can use. If it's not a prescription, it's certainly suggestions, and I definitely see that. But I think that going forward, the state of masculinity, conventional masculinity, is being denigrated, and so to in any way challenge that, you're always going to be met. Like even you will get this from women. It will be, you're a misogynist. It looks like the He-Man Woman Haters book, right? Yeah. You're going to, you will experience that very soon.
Well, I do now, I do now. I've been getting that since I've been, leaning towards that demographic and pumping up, promo for the book. But I wholly put the onus of the fallen state of women on men. I don't even think it has anything to do with women. I really think it has to do with the fact that men have fallen from a high level of masculinity. Because when a woman is in a room with a masculine man, she's not the same as when she's with a soy boy. She's completely different. She's completely.
Yeah, I'm 50-50 with you on that one, because the law is like Rollo talks about all the time. Like, they want men to take the responsibility, but there's no authority. When we just get completely raked over the coals in the family court system, like we have to like critically analyze the situation at hand and realize that there is a legal disadvantage to being a man in the United States, especially if you live in a state like Florida, where all a woman has to do is call the police and be like, hey, he's hitting me. No, there's no evidence.
Yeah, I blame that all on men. All of that, all on men. If you think about the legal system is run by men. Most judges are men. But besides that, if you end up in court with a woman, that's poor penis management. You chose the wrong woman.
With hopes on this one.
You chose the wrong woman. And secondly, if you were put on child support and she finessed you into child support, you weren't savvy enough to finesse her out of child support. You weren't savvy enough to finesse her out of the divorce. Men have to take that responsibility and accountability and say, I messed up. I brought this ain't shit woman into my life. Everything in your life is your fault. You created your reality.
Just
So
like
what's
Ryan
the
Holiday,
solution to men right now?
Man.
Like, what would you tell men today to fix that?
What would I tell them to fix what?
To fix the current situation that they've created? Because I mean, you're purporting that men created the environment where women are running them, and I agree with you. But what is the solution to that? What is your message to men today to fix that?
I think it's very much subjective, right? For each individual, right? For the whole, you just have to raise your masculinity. And that's kind of like what I talk about in my book, being very stoic, right? If men were more stoic and less emotional, women wouldn't act the way they do. But on the individual level, if you're in a situation where you're dealing with child support, you need to finesse the woman. You need to sit down and have a real talk with her. See, what happens a lot of times with men is when men get into an argument with a woman, it turns into two bitches fighting. You know, two people can't be an emotional in a conversation. A woman's always going to be emotional in a conversation. Are you going to match her energy, or are you going to stay stoic in your energy, right? Same thing with the divorce. You have to be, this is why I say most men need to take a sales course or a bunch of sales classes. You might need to do telemarketing for a few months just to learn how to speak to people in a manner in which adds persuasion. This is why Scott Adams is great, because he teaches persuasion. So you need to practice persuasion. So when you're in the room with your ex-wife or your ex-baby mama, you can finesse that situation into your favor.
Here's the problem that I have with that, just to come at it from a slightly different perspective as a devil's advocate now. So you have a man and a woman in the family court system, and I'm well versed in this. I've been through it myself. I've coached hundreds of guys, and this is one of the things that I do is I help guys navigate divorce so then I get fucked, right? So they're sitting in a room, and a woman's baseline belief that's hardwired into her DNA is hypergamy and solipsism. You know, it's all about her. She can't see past her nose, and she always wants the best deal that she can get.
Right.
Everything that's written in family law facilitates what she's looking to do anyway. And for her to have custody of the kids is going to ensure the money flows to her. So how is a guy's at a big disadvantage, right? Like, I agree with you. Like, I stayed in the matrimonial home for a year and a half, and I went through a bunch of stuff to make sure that I got a shared parenting deal, right? But most guys in that environment, because they already defer to women, because everything in family law is already in her favor. I don't even like, I'm more of a kick your feet up and enjoy the decline sort of guy, right?
Okay.
Like, you can have a bit of fun on the way, you know, throughout your life, if you know what I'm saying. But
sure,
any guy that thinks that he can negotiate his way out of child support,
you can't. No,
they got to be good. They got to be really good.
You can't negotiate with the court.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Negotiate with her is what I'm saying. Like, the only way that you can do that is if you both make the same amount of money, or roughly the same amount of money, and you both have, like in Canada here, for example, I got to have your kid more than 40% of the time. So you have the kid more than 40% of the time, and you have roughly the same amount of money, and she agrees to a shared parenting ideal because she sees value in that. But most women, 85% of the custody orders go to women still, but most women will still fight to be the custodial caregiver because the baby came out of their body, and because they're the mommy and the child needs the mommy. But the underlying story beneath that is mommy gets all the money when she's the primary custodial caregiver, right?
So it's two ways to look at it. Is one is the courts where you are disabled. Then the other way is privately. Now you're talking to somebody who has finessed their way out of child support. I was under child support. I am not under child support anymore.
Neither am I.
Because it's cheaper to keep her. I'm not stupid. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can double up on this. You've never read it, but there's this thing called the Better Beta Divorce Guide. We had in the Married Red Pill for married guys. It's talking like that. Don't try to be out alpha with a girl that can't stand you and watch your child support. You got to tactically surrender, get her on the good side. Because this stuff, these tools are all at her disposal, but she still follows her feelings. And if she feels like, I got this guy, she doesn't have to get vengeful with the child support because she's already beat him down. And so you play the fool right that one to get it. And like you're saying, and the best part was like, and I know you're going to say this too, I'll quickly finish it, and the guide was hilarious. It's like, if you want to have more child support, and he basically described how to be a really good father. He's like, if you're doing all these things, then the courts will look at you like a better father, and you can actually do shit.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. White and black men, I can't speak for any other race because I don't know much about any other race, but white and black men have been stripped of their culture, right? When you look at the Jewish community has their own private court system. The women wouldn't even think twice about going to the child support system unless they're going to finesse it, right? They actually have an agreement where the man puts the woman in one house, puts himself in another house, and they're raping the governmental system. In the Hotep community, the women wouldn't even think twice about going to the so-called white man, is how we would put it. They wouldn't go to the white court system to settle a dispute with their baby's father. It just wouldn't happen. That's a cultural problem. So if your culture has been so strict that your woman is willing to go to the state, to come between you and your relationships, it's a cultural problem.
Yes.
Now, when I come to people and I say, yo, I prefer anarchy over what we have now, I get pushback. And so I say, oh, so you believe in the state. You want the state to rule over you, right? Ooh. So a real man would welcome anarchy, right? A real man will welcome anarchy. Any other man is a status, right? They believe, we need the state. We need the government. Well, if you think you need the government, you're going to get child support. You're going to get divorce court. You're going to get your ass whooped. And that's what this comes down to. I think white men and black men need to refine accepting what the TV has been giving us, what the media has been giving.
Global. It's what I see that, and we got to move on. Hotep, thanks for coming on. I got some other guests here in the field, but I want to just lay this out there real quickly. I understand about the culture, but I think really what's going on in intersexual dynamics and why we even have the manosphere right now is we are moving away, I think, from these cultural narratives, these cultural, whether it's ethnic or whatever else. And we're moving from these, the way that I describe this is I see them as sort of local sexual marketplaces versus a global sexual marketplace. So part of globalization is not just the economy. It's not just how we're going to do business with each other or immigration and all that stuff. It's everything. And part of that everything is the sexual marketplace. So when we see like the breakdown of the family, like you're talking about right now, or when we see the, like we look at, I get a lot of guys, and I'm sure John gets this as well, but a lot of guys will say, I'm going to move to Southeast Asia and I'm going to go find me a feminine wife. I'm going to go outside of this country. I'm going to move somewhere else. I'm going to find me a feminine wife because it's easier. And those women are brought up right and they know how to do it and everything. And increasingly, and really the last couple of years have kind of changed my mind about this, but increasingly I see that even women in those countries, in those like Eastern Bloc countries, in Southeast Asia, in the Philippines, and wherever like guys want to go, Brazil. Increasingly, we're seeing more and more of these women are part of the global sexual marketplace rather than their local sexual marketplace. And really, I think the breakdown of the family and the breakdown of like you were saying, black and white culture really is part of this globalization initiative that's going on. So Hotep, I'm going to move on. Thanks for joining us today.
Dude, real pleasure. Awesome.
Yeah.
See you, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Hotep. Much
Dude, I could listen to him speak for an hour.
I know. I think we ought to get Hotep on and just have him on as a straight guest. I've had him on my show. I've interviewed him on my show before, and it was right after his Joe Rogan thing. I thought it was fantastic. I really wanted to have him as a speaker at that other convention. Now I'm kind of glad I didn't, because when we decide to do something, whenever that is, that's going to be for later on in the show. Whenever we decide to do something, he's going to be at the top of the list, I think, for speakers, because he challenges us, right? I
like it too. He's media savvy.
Yeah, like
absolutely. The manosphere, all those problems you guys are talking about, unattractive guys being unattractive. Be attractive, and nobody will call you a woman hater. You can say the dumbest shit ever.
It's true.
And he's like the most switched on guy with that.
I've got other guys waiting in the waiting room right now. Guys, here's how we're gonna work this. Jack, I see you. Conk, I've got you. I've got Drew in. I've also got Corey just jumped in here. I've got 10 people in the slots right now, so I'm gonna bring you on one at a time. We're just gonna ask you these questions. Please give me a brief answer, and we'll talk with you for a little bit, and then we'll move on to the next guy because I've only got one open slot. So let's start with Jack Napier. There's Jack. Hi,
You're gonna
Jack.
let
Hi, Jack. I thought I had to put you on right now because of this thing. So.
Oh God, you're gonna let me on after Hotep Jesus.
Yeah, I know. You're gonna have to follow. You're gonna have to follow up Hotep Jesus now. So, let's see. Let's start with what was the highlights of your 2019, and really, I think the conversation is where do you see 2020 and beyond going in intersexual dynamics and everything that we talk about.
Well, the highlight of this year is hard to pinpoint because, wow, I didn't expect this to happen so fast, actually. My channel just broke 1,000. I went on Rule Zero. I went on with Rolo, with Troy, with John, with Ryan. Rich and I haven't talked one-on-one yet. Maybe that will happen in the future. Who knows? Oh, cool. But damn, man, I really didn't see this happening. So everything is a bit of a highlight. The show Red Evening I do with Rob, people love it. I've been getting Patreons just for that. They tell me like, no man, just want to support the show. Don't need anything. Like, you sure? Nope, just want to support the show. And I'm like, damn, people actually enjoy it that much. So that was much of a highlight. Like Ryan has been supportive since the beginning, who is now gone.
He'll come back. There
he is.
He wants to show you that backsplash. That's a whole point of his video right now.
Yeah, that's the highlight of this year. And when it comes to intersectional dynamics, man, I have no idea. Like we have the social media right now, and I think it's gonna get worse. Since more and more will have access to that, and younger people grow up with it, and and so girls will get used to that more and more. So I think that is where the sexual marketplace will take place. What do you want to say?
I totally agree with that, Jack. It was kind of like what I was saying earlier. I think it's only going to get worse. It's only going to increase from here. Do you know what I mean? We're not putting the genie back in the bottle. It's just going to continue. So guys have just got to be ready for that, and they've got to think through their strategy and know what they want.
Yeah. And when it comes to the manosphere itself, I thought about that this morning, and I wrote a small bit about it. It's about 2 minutes. So if I can have the floor for that,
sure.
And then I'll be off. So what to expect in 2020? After the childish power grab of an entitled event planner, the manosphere will go mainstream, but not the manosphere we know and love. It will be the manosphere of men who have never been truly able to meet the standards of what it means to be unplugged and be their own mental point of origin. It will be the men who were never able to say goodbye to the old set of books to fully unplug and smell the roses. It will be the men who don't even know they are tools to be used by men to go back to the plantation for the foregone dream of a white picket fence, led by the Sunhat Mafia disguised as a political movement called the patriarchy. Long after they fought against it, now they finally realize that to be able to defeat it forever, they need to join it. They will represent themselves as the bad girl gone good, or plain Jane next door, and let themselves be represented by the puppet who struts forward like the big strong man, knowing how to handle his woman, who not just has a slut, but he has his slut. All this will be for the political gain of winning over the conservative voters and men on the fence of feminism. But hey, not all women are like that, especially not the one in her mid to late 30s and are called Karen. The 22 convention will be the first sign of this. The 21 convention will hit mainstream with many men ripe for the picking and driven back to the plantation. We will be driven to the outer reaches of the internet for the crime of misogyny, betrayal, and nerve to stand against such a fantasy, as we always have done before, even before I showed up. YouTube will ban us like many major platforms, but we have our books, blogs, and newsletters. For men always find a way to overcome struggle. As we have done before, we shall do again. This is nothing new, just another hurdle to jump over. This time it's just a hurdle built by our former comrades because of the hollow promise of a gone-by era. This year will be the year of the content creator, for he is needed more than ever. The 4th Rational Male book, the first Ryan Stone and Rich Cooper book, a new Cappy book, Troy taking a new direction, and whatever John is planning for us. These and many more will lay the groundworks of what will come after the dust has settled. What this may be, I don't know, but you can be damn sure I'll be a part of it. That was my thought about.
There's your thing. Right.
Very
on.
optimistic.
Cool. Thanks, thanks, Jack. I'm gonna pull you. I'm gonna move on here. Cool. See, he went to all that trouble to write that out.
Dude,
See what we do for you.
That depressed me, man.
Yeah, did it? Yeah.
I hope he's not right, but I worry he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. You know what? Drew, you've been waiting for a while, so I'm gonna put Drew in next here. Drew Bay. Bay.com. What's going on, man? What was your highlight this year, and what do you see happening in the future?
Oh man. Personal highlight was just getting my. Well, are we trying to keep the swearing to a minimum here?
Whatever, man. It's all good at this point. Yeah.
And I know you want to keep the answers short, so I'll condense all this. You guys know I have problems going off on tangents. Getting my ass back in gear, and having, instead of just drifting on stuff that I'd accomplished years ago, starting writing again, producing video, putting together a private group. I just checked, and I'm up. My income is up 42% over the past 6 months over where it was last year. And actually, I owe a lot of that to, I guess we're calling it rational men now instead of the manosphere. I like that, Rich, because 2017, 2018, the cons were actually decent. A lot of you guys were there speaking, and it was a kick in the ass, lighting a fire under at my ass that I needed. And so personally, this has been best year I've had in a very long time. As far as the manosphere, if we're going to call it that, I see all the spurgs and dorks and just the weirdos being quickly forgotten. They are doing a great job of driving every reasonable person away from themselves.
Yep.
And I don't think any of them are going to be an issue. They're going to be a footnote in a year or two. Everybody will have forgotten who they are. Except for maybe some of the memes will still be floating. Prometheus has been cracking me up with all the stuff that he's been posting. But my prediction is that the men here and like-minded men are going to continue to help more people, providing more and better and more relevant content, while all the haters are just going to basically become completely irrelevant. That's pretty much it. That, and get your asses in shape, buy a lot of guns and ammo, learn to use them, and learn first aid. I hope I'm wrong, but we might all need it.
I just want to add to that, Drew, because last time I saw you in person was earlier this year, and you've lost a lot of weight, and you've definitely put on some more muscle.
Well, when I was in college, I was a fitness model. I did a Calvin Klein ad, underwear ad. I modeled for GNC. I was in.
Did you have the mullet when you did the Calvin Klein ad?
No, my hair was short when I did that full page, like newspaper thing spread. So I came down here, and after a while, I just was like, let myself go. And I figured I don't need to look the part. I'm writing. I'm doing all this stuff online. And it was just stupid. It was stupid and lazy of me. So this has been the year that I'm like, I can't ride on what I looked like when I was in college. I need to get back to that. And I really owe a lot of that to you guys for lighting that fire under my ass. In fact, I have on my phone, I have on my laptop, the backdrop just says, keep moving forward. And so I am constantly reminded of that. In fact, if you follow me on Twitter, I regularly post, what are you doing to improve yourself today? What are you doing to help others become better? And so it's not just for me to post for other people, but a reminder to myself. And I'm not where I'm not ready to step on stage or anything. And I don't look like I did when I was in my 20s. Calvin Klein's, they don't give a shit. I'm not getting any modeling work. Plus, I'm 5'8", so I didn't even get that when I did.
You're doomed. He'll never get laid.
One way and all that other stuff, not so much. But yeah, I think things are going to continue to get better. I am optimistic about the work that you guys are doing, because I think that all
we're doing
are going to be irrelevant.
You're with us, man. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. You are.
Work we're doing.
Yeah. Thanks, Drew.
Well, I tend to think of myself as having a relatively narrow lane where if I'm in something like this and people aren't asking me about exercise or nutrition or maybe a little bit of guns or politics, I don't feel, and not to brag or anything, but I don't really feel qualified to talk too much about the dating stuff, because when I was younger, when I was in college, when I was single, my approach was pretty much walk up to women and sometimes say, "What are you doing when you leave here tonight?"
Oh yeah, you don't think we get that though? People are asking me about politics. They're asking Rollo about random stuff. They're like, as soon as you have one expertise, they halo effect and they just assume, well, he must know everything.
Everybody knows everything.
Asking me business advice. I'm like 7 months in, man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really know shit about this stuff because I never. And somebody was talking earlier. I think it might have. Oh crap! I can't remember if it was you or maybe it was John, about being the telemarketing and sales calls. I probably get this from my dad, because we can go anywhere and he will walk up and strike a conversation with complete strangers just out of the blue constantly. We were visiting him in St. Augustine when he was here on vacation, and I think within an hour he probably stopped and had a conversation with about a half a dozen different random people. He can just walk up and talk. And so I must have gotten some of that, because I've never, the whole approach and all that, it was pretty much, I mean, literally. Well, I don't want to go off. If I'm a natural, I don't have to learn how to do it, so I can't teach anybody else.
All right. Thanks, Drew. I appreciate all that. We're going to move on. Thanks for your input.
Dude, I love hearing guys like this. We're like, yeah, you guys. I'm like, there's no us. It's we.
Yeah.
I thought it was you guys and me, and then you said we pretty quick. I'm like, oh, fair enough.
All right. Right now in the waiting room, I've got Conk, I've got Corey, I've got El Bulgario. I don't know who that is actually, but I think I know who that is, and I've got Aaron Clary on deck here too. So, but let's see, Conk, you've been waiting the longest, so I'm gonna drop you in. Oh, Abu American, also I see you there. We'll catch you here in just a second. Let me put Conk on real quick. Conk, what's going on? Happy New Year.
What's up, man?
What do you think's gonna happen? What do you think's gonna happen, Conk? Tell us quick.
I think the key is going to be, we talked about it near the beginning. I think Rollo did. Is talking about like keeping the manosphere decentralized. Because every time somebody tries to put an authoritarian spin on it, it goes to shit, you know?
It's true. Yeah, imagine that.
Who would have thought? But yeah, and it's funny. It actually completely, like, especially specifically this year, but the manosphere in general, like the history is like mimicking almost one for one, like how the church split into 1,000 little denominations all attacking each other and all that shit from the original authoritarian church, right? And so, like, I mean, it's almost one to one. If you go into that stuff. So I should
also add, I wanted to say this too before, because we got so many people that want to be on this one today, but the part of my predictions from last year, particularly from the State of the Manosphere address, is exactly what you're talking about, Conk. I made a few predictions on that show this time last year, and one of them is that we had to be very careful of how we manage the brand of me. And everybody on this panel, everybody that's in the waiting room right now, pretty much everybody that we know has their own brand. Rich is his own brand. Ryan is his own brand. I'm my own brand. Everybody's got their brand of me.
Dear God.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're mixing all of these guys together. You're mixing all these egos together, and everybody's really, you know, when somebody disagrees with that guy, it's almost like they're disagreeing with that brand of me. And so, yeah, you're going to see this atomization. You're going to see this factionalization, I think. I know that there are guys who would love nothing more than to unite the tribes, right? We should all, you know, the MGTOWs and the Red Pill guys and the POAs and all these guys. And it's like, yeah, I understand why you would want to do that. But the problem with that is everybody, when your only source of revenue is your brand of me, anything that is a disagreement of that is seen as sort of an attack on that brand. And so when I'm talking about stuff and I'm trying to get to the bottom of like objective truth, I feel like I have an obligation of truth, right? But there's still the brand of Rollo Tomasi. There's still the brand of Rich Cooper. There's still the brand of everybody else. But I get what you're saying. I think factionalization is, or atomization, I guess, is almost inevitable. And I think we're probably going to see, I would say, and this is one of my predictions for 2020, I would say that we're going to see the rise of like some new factionalization. It won't be MRAs. It'll be, PTAs or what, I don't know. It'll have some acronym, I'm sure, as well.
PTA is coming at us.
PTA is coming at you. Yeah.
And I would say it's even going
the daddy bloggers.
I would say it's even going to accelerate just because of the election year, like Hotep said. The outrage, like we've seen outrage over the last 2 or 3 years over the whole presidency and us versus them mentality, but it's just going to get exponential this year. And then I think it'll probably die off in 2021 or something crazy will happen.
I think the more refined we get in like I would say that we have specific ideals with respect to what it is that we want to do in the manosphere right here. I think that the more people coalesce, I think people are really seeing like MGTOW, Red Pill, all this as sort of a way to get into a sphere, to start their own brand of me, rather than actually having some sort of dedication to what it is that they want to do, who they want to help, why it is that they want to spread whatever message or whatever it is that they want to, tell the world. You're gonna see guys who are you're gonna have that factionalization, of course, but I think you're going to be able to more easily in 2020. I think you're going to be able to more easily identify the guys who are either out for just straight up the hustle, or they're actually into what it is that they're saying. I think right now MGTOW is the most recent target. I think that a lot of guys who are coming into this sphere, who want to get into the personal health, relationship, dating, lifestyle, life coaching, grift, they want to get into that. I mean, there are literally seminars that will teach you how to get rich online. And then it doesn't matter what you do, just get in and do these certain things. And so I see, of course, you see guys like 33 Secrets or the rest of these guys who are lifting my material, in some cases reading directly from my material. They don't know, and they wouldn't know the first thing about it if you ask them face to face or you talk to them. But they're happy to go and pontificate or to read my stuff or talk about how they're, or how they're a MGTOW even, and they want to use that as their own personal brand, I think. And as a result, I think more and more guys are going to get into that. But what that does is it sort of refines what those factions and what it is that they're talking about are really about. So, all right, Conk, I'm going to pull you out, man. Thanks for your contribution, and thanks for always being there for Conk, by the way, is a ever ready mod on my channel and on everybody's channel. So if you guys are wondering who Conk is, I've had him on actually Religion and the Red Pill as well. But thanks for doing what you do, Conk.
Can I do a really quick shout out?
Sure, go ahead.
Shout out. So I really want to pitch Rich's 1% community, because I would say that's probably been the highlight of my year. And I do most of, you'll see me in the mods and the chats here public, but I'm extremely active in his community as well. And that is just a bunch of base bros. So I have personal experience in that. And I would say that's been probably the highlight is being able to interact on that more personal level with other guys, just going in and doing the work.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Conk.
Cool, man.
All right.
See you
soon, man.
Awesome. All right. Conk's a good dude. That it's funny. I just met Conk this year. I think he started right about the beginning of 2019, right?
And
he's a
if
good
you guys
guy.
missed it in the chat, he's got a YouTube channel. He did a video called Of Milk and Meat. It's a small channel. He's only done one video, so check that out. It's really good.
Yeah, I had him on my channel the other week, and we did quite an interesting live stream about addiction, because he works in addiction counseling. So we talked about some of those issues, which was pretty cool. And I'd like to get him on again to get more into the sort of some of the spiritual side of that stuff as well, because he's got a background as a pastor. So he's an interesting guy for sure.
Wow. I have Corey. I've got El Bulgario. I've got Aaron Clary. Cappy is in. I see you, Cappy. Don't worry. We'll get to you. I got Abu American also on deck as well. Let's see. Who's been waiting the longest? I think actually, Corey, you've been waiting the longest. Let's bring Corey on. Corey, got him again. Hey, man. How are you doing?
What is up, everybody?
There we go. Corey, what was the highlight of your 2019, and where do you see things going? And if if you have any comments or questions or anything like we've been talking about thus far, please be happy to join in. I got to keep you on I can't keep you past 5 minutes. I got
no worries. I got you. All right, let's go back to Hotep Jesus real quick. The question at hand, if everything is just society. I think he had some of the right diagnoses, but he doesn't have the right, I guess, praxeology, I guess, as far as the direction we need to take things. And that's actually what I'm doing right now. I'm writing my second book. I'm 80,000 words into this book right now. It's breaking everything down as to what's wrong in society and how we need to fix it. Obviously going back and tying everything together, really like the 5 main things that are kind of the issues. When it comes to like schools, when it comes to government, when it comes to religion, when it comes to all that good stuff. Where do I see it all going? Well, the biggest thing that most people aren't aware of, this is the biggest myth that most people are not aware of, is the sexual marketplace, right? It's the longest standing marketplace since the beginning of like human consciousness, if that makes any sense. And that's actually where all of this is going on. This is a war in the sexual marketplace, right? It's there's 7 billion people on the planet, right? And we're all feeling it on a global scale now at that. And we realize that the top 20% of men are going to be the ones that are going to be the ones spreading their genes, right? And that's really what this pushback is against. So how is it that you can elevate yourself into the top 20% of men? Because there is no school out there to teach men how to a masculine man, or how to elevate themselves to the top 20%, right? This is the biggest myth. It's kind of like, it's like the Darwinism of trying to push the alpha genetics on top of like alpha socialism or like socialization to the top, if that makes any sense. Right. So that's what's going to happen is, here's my theory. It used to be a point where someone could just be like, they could just invest wholeheartedly into one key area of their life. Like the Steve Jobses of the world, right? You can go and you could just become a tech guru, and you can earn a butt ton of money in that department, and you would be an alpha male in that department. Or you could be the bodybuilder type over there, or you could be an actor, right? But now the point is, with the sexual marketplace, as a man, you have to be proficient at 6 key areas of life. You have to be like 80% efficient with that. And the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, and relational. Those are the 6 areas. You can no longer get away with being good at just 3 of those. You will not be a top 20% or a 5% man if you're not proficient in all of those environments, if that makes any sense. So that's actually what this push is. And I think that's actually where, like, fuck the manosphere, right? It's no longer that anymore. It's just becoming the best version of man possible, because it's such a huge global marketplace now. You have to be a master in all of those environments in order for you to be able to be the one that's going to propagate his genetics. Does that make sense? So that's actually what we're going to start to see, especially over the next decade, I believe, because we're seeing it happen socially. We're seeing it happen financially. We're seeing it happen politically. The middle class is getting separated, and everything's getting pulled to the polarities, right? And it's a bigger exodus of the middle class going over to the poor than it is of people evolving up to the rich, if that makes any sense, right? And that's a choice you have to make right now. Do you want to be the type of guy that gets pulled in the direction of going to the bottom rung, right? Because that's the way the forces are going. Do you want to go to the bottom rung, or do you want to fight your way up to the top? It's in everything.
I just want to add to that, because I was kind of thinking about it as you were wrapping on, Corey, but there's like this distinction now where it's like, there's no longer upper class, middle class, that blended line, the blue collar guy, and then the lower class, or the social, the folks that are on social assistance. It's like you either have a choice to become a victim and surrender to your circumstances, or to do the work and win, right? That's really what it boils down to, guys. And you have to decide, what camp do you want to be in? Do you want to be with the losers that point and sputter and complain, or do you want to win at life? Do you want to do the work? Do you want to, a lot of guys will be like, well, I'm only 5'5", but the girls don't like that. It's like, good, be short with muscles and tons of money, right? Like, I know lots of guys that do great with women in that sense. But I'm really ugly, blah, blah, blah. Mick Jagger's an ugly motherfucker, and he's had plenty of women, right? Like, be famous then, right?
Have you ever seen
Figure it
Tom
out.
Likas, Rich? Have you ever looked at Tom Likas?
Yeah,
The dude looks like pig vomit.
Of course, yeah.
Like he's horrible. He's a disgusting looking human being, but he has game and he has money and he has leverage in Hollywood, right?
There's no excuse. I mean, it's either choose to make excuses or do the work. That's it.
But I think the biggest direction is this, though, and I think this is the direction that we are also going to go as men. Is we're going to see society go off into their own little tribes and areas where it's going to decay and it's going to be feminine dominated and it's going to be controlled by the state. But I think there's going to be pockets of men. It's going to be like city states, right? We're going to have the Spartas and the Athens rise up again. We're going to have the philosopher kings in these small locations and stuff like that. On top of what I think is the major thing, this is what a lot of my body of work has to do with, because I've worked with plant medicine after coming back from Afghanistan, getting blown up and dealing with being on SSRIs due to PTSD and stuff. When you say plant medicine in Afghanistan, you're not meaning poppies, are you?
You're talking about mushrooms, right?
Okay, no, I'm talking about ayahuasca and iboga and peyote.
Gotcha.
The three big things.
Had to ask.
Yeah, no worries. No, what I'm saying is after I came back and I was diagnosed with PTSD and I was put on SSRIs and I realized how terrible that shit was for you, I decided to take myself off and then look for a holistic, natural way of healing myself. And that led me down to the rainforest, the Peruvian Amazon, working with shamans with ayahuasca, and then later on with iboga, which is a very masculine plant. It was like the best masculine mentor I've ever kind of gone through. And I've realized that
a few people now.
It's amazing. I highly, highly, highly recommend for anyone who's looking to do the work. Iboga is the number one thing, hands down. Now, the reason I say that is because that's an initiatory rite of passage. And back in the day, before the Industrial Revolution, boys used to at least be initiated into manhood, right? Because you're not born a man, you're turned into a man. And usually it used to start at 13, and that's when that masculine mentorship was given to you and you were taught the roles of masculinity, right? We're missing that. And that's something that needs to be reinvigorated back into any type of society that touts masculinity as the foundation by which it's going to succeed. So that's the other thing that I think is going to happen, but it's going to start off in small pockets. I like that. I like the
we need more rites of passage. We need to get to a point where we have some demarcation is what and I've written actually 2 essays on this, Corey, about how when a guy becomes I think really now for our generation, it used to be, back in the day when you were 13 or 15 or whatever, they throw you out in the forest and you had to come back, you had to go survive for 2 weeks and then come back kind of thing. Or else it was, there's something I pretty much like, what the
Agogi, the Spartan Agogi,
or even the
bull ants or whatever,
a bar mitzvah, even like, okay, you are now a man, we're going to treat you as a man, blah, blah, blah. Those kinds of things. There were independent of the culture. There was always a demarcation of when a man was to be treated not as a boy anymore, but as a man. And I think that one of the casualties, I think, of this gynocentric social order, but also this of the globalizing everything, is that there's been a concerted effort to withhold masculinity from men, to withhold.
You're 100% right. Yeah, and there's a reason why they started to take away male spaces too, because
exactly. You can't gather together. You can't be a man. And if you're 18, when you're supposed to be a man, by the way, as far as the state's concerned, you can vote, whatever. You can't drink, but you can vote and you can go die for your country. When you're 18, you're supposed to be a man. But imagine the average 18-year-old coming. I can't saying, I'm a man now, and even just verbalizing that. Most guys will call themselves guys. I'm even doing it myself. Most men will call themselves guys, and so it's this. When I keep hammering on about mental point of origin, that's part of it. You need to give yourself permission to be a man, and usually now, because we're in this red pill, whatever manosphere culture, subculture, online culture sphere, whatever you want to call it. I've been promoting the idea that once you sort of unplug from the matrix and you become more red pill aware, you need to have something that demarcates your old self dying, because that was your boyhood. That was your blue pill conditioning. You have to kill the boy. I've been saying this from day one. Kill the beta, kill the boy, kill the soy boy, kill that off.
It's like what No More Mr. Nice Guy talks about, where you have to sever that umbilical cord to mommy. Right. And that's really what that that ceremony is it's removing that feminine feeder that says you're attached to mommy and you have to hold her up as the Virgin Mary or, you know, the most pure thing in the world, right? Because that's really what the boys connection is. Now, before I get out of here, because obviously 5 minutes is up, I just wanted to say, you know, the thing about initiation too is this. The initiation is, just like you said, it's a demarcation, but it is not the full complete thing. Like the Pat Stedmans and the Rooshes now that are sitting here and saying like porn is the new initiation or the rite of passage. You don't just go through a rite of passage and then get a baton and say, I'm a man, the work is done. That is the initiation. That is the starting point by which you begin the transformation. The work needs to be done time and time again, right? So you have to continue it. And, you know, I don't want to step in the way of Rich's 1% community, but this is what I talk a lot about in my men's community, the wartribe.com, where we talk about the rites of passage on top of game and style and building yourself in certain ways. So if you guys are interested in having this conversation, please do go to my website, thewartribe.com.
Cool. Corey, we're going to here's another prediction I have. I'm going to bring you on this show individually. So when as a guest, all these guys I really want to have on Rule Zero for this show coming up. I want to make sure that we get a little bit more outreach and we got more people coming on that we're talking to. And if I think that you would be good for a particular topic, I will definitely invite you on.
Awesome.
So, cool. Yeah. Great, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
All right.
See you, man.
Nice. Speaking of which, I should have changed this out.
I like that one, by the way.
I
kind of wrote that when I was deployed, and I thought being in the military would make you a man. And then I ran into a Korean war vet who just put my career to shame. All these guys who want these rights of masculinity, I don't think they realize that the rights aren't really there. Like you guys said, you just got to pick something and own it.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got one thing. We're at the top of the hour here, and I will be remiss if I don't read this for you guys. This has been sort of a URL or a blog post that I've hung on to for 10 years. And I wanted to just sort of, I'll quickly skim through it real quick. But these were back when Roosh actually, was Roosh. He's not Roosh. I don't know what he is now, but when Roosh was still Roosh, in 2010, he put out this post called "The Future of Game," and it was a prognostication or a predictions of what we were going to see within the next 10 years. And so this was in 2010. And now we're getting to 2020. So I kind of wanted to read this real quickly here, and I'll show you that, guys, the screen here in just a second. Let me go grab that real quick. Let's see, future. All right. So this is the actual piece right here. Okay. And so I'm just going to quickly run through this. These are things he predicted would be the truth, or what by the end of 2020, this is what was going to happen. Hot girls under 30 will be impossible to lock down. Populations continue to get fatter. He was right about that, decreasing the attractiveness of the species. The few remaining girls who aren't obese will have a never-ending line of suitors at the door, not only betas, but alphas as well. This puts her closer to living the Sex and the City dream. Remember when Sex and the City was a thing? Yeah. She will jump ship at the slightest trouble in relationships, whereas before she might have been willing to work it out. To see this phenomenon in action today, look at any beautiful girl between the ages of 19 and 23. Locking her up for more than a couple of months is nothing short of extraordinary. In the future, that age range will expand to the upper 20s and maybe even lower 30s. All beautiful women will be the most advanced and cuntish of players, and all that game will be able to do is squeeze in a couple of banks before she moves on to the next one. I thought this was interesting because what do we say? We say it wasn't you, or you never had her. It was just your turn. It's not yours,
just your turn.
Just your turn. I mean, that's so I would say that this prediction certainly came true. We look at how women are pushing out the age of marriage to even further, and then putting off, to the point where we could freeze eggs, putting off reproduction until way into their later days, because according to what I think is that women today are doing this because they want to prolong the years that they have to find the perfect guy that a global sexual marketplace is telling them that they are entitled to. I think he was right about that also, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys would agree about the obesity thing. We have more and more. What was it? I just saw this on an article the other day about how the average size of a woman, or the average like physique of a woman, is like 5'8" or 5'7", and
5'4", 167.
167. Yeah, that's it. 5'4" and 167 is the average.
Spinners
woman.
are a thing of the past.
Oh my God.
Almost anyway.
So here's the next one. Flaking will reach epidemic proportions. Western culture is teaching youth to glance upon the field and carefully analyze all available options before making a decision, or simply not make a decision at all. Therefore, dates scheduled more than a day in advance will be rare. There will be no concept of keeping your word, being honorable, showing up, or acting respectful. Everyone will look out for their own. Whereas for night game in the past, you had to make out with a girl to decrease the chances that she'd flake on you. Today, you'll have to fuck her. That's right. To get a first date, you have to already have had the one night stand with her. This is the only way I've found that decreases flaking to an acceptable level in even today's climate. Now, he was talking about 2010. If I only made out with a girl, or God forbid, didn't kiss her, the odds that I will see her again are far from assured. The dirty truth in game is how often flaking occurs and how it will happen at such frustrating level that I'm certain more men will turn into homosexuals or resort to sex dolls because of it.
There it is.
And remember, this is the sex doll.
He wasn't wrong about those last two things.
In 2010. This feature alone will cut the game careers short of many men who simply can't handle the frustration and rejection you'll have to really want to succeed. So I think that's
he really gave up, huh?
Yeah.
He described my dating life, and I would not use such negative language. That was awesome. Yeah. If I didn't sleep with her on the first date, I already knew, like, no point moving on.
What is this article, Rollo? Can you link it in the chat?
I'll bring it out for you here. I'll put it in our chat real quick.
Thank you, sir.
Cool. So there's that. Now here's the part that I think is the most amazing part of this thing. It says the definition of monogamy will loosen. What have I been talking about for at least the last year and a half with respect to poly, right?
Yeah, mainstream poly.
You know how some people call themselves flex vegetarians, meaning that they are meat eaters, but they also like to pretend they are vegetarians. Beautiful women will have flex monogamous relationships. Sound like poly? In relationships, they will cheat and stray regularly, as our culture will by then have perfectly taught youth the art of rationalization. You don't have to accept your current situation. Do what you like. You're a unique snowflake. You don't deserve to be uncomfortable. She'll cheat on strange men without a condom and not feel any remorse. And if you dump her, she won't care, because she'll do the same thing with the next guy, and there will be several.
Girls have been raw dogging since the beginning of time. That's nothing new.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing: is I think he's right about this, and I absolutely correct about this. Is that the definition of monogamy will loosen, and that's where we're at right now.
But I don't think it's because the definition is loosening. I think it's because women are loosening when it comes to things like slut shaming. They're not ashamed to, put themselves out there and be more like men, right?
Or if a guy had a boundary,
Here's one thing, right? I think that everything he's saying has come true, but I think it's only going to accelerate. Do you know what I mean? I think if we now look at another 10 years in advance, how are these things going to look in a further decade's time? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think things
plus 20%.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, things are only going to speed up because the technology is only going to improve. The adoption of the technology is only going to increase. So, sorry, but guys need to be aware of this stuff, and they need to be working out what their strategies are to deal with this stuff now, because it's not going backwards. It's only going to go forward.
All right. And this last part right here is exactly what Hotep Jesus was talking about. Game plus fame will be more important than anything. It doesn't have to be national fame, but you must be known for something. With a reputation that precedes you. You must have a YouTube channel with millions of views. You must be a proprietor of a hipster butcher shop. You must be a popular writer, artist, musician. You must be a nightclub promoter or a DJ. You must be a competitive skateboarder. You must be the notorious editor of a cupcake newsletter. In a culture where 1 million people are famous, quote unquote famous, you'll have to work your ass off for scraps if you're not.
Well, I think he's right. I think he's right about that. I think he's right about that. But you don't actually need to be the cupcake guy. You can just you could just have 100K followers on Instagram.
Well, there has to be some kind
this
of.
comes off as extremely pathetic to me. Is anybody else getting like vibes?
But was he wrong? But was he wrong?
He's not wrong.
He's
just screaming at clouds.
It just seems like it's 2010. He's saying this is the future game, saying that you need some sort of fame and game to get laid, and like that's just not true with all the guys that I'm coaching in my community. Okay. I don't know. I just read this and
does it help though? Does social proof help?
Being famous helps in any situation. Yeah. That's like saying, would having $1 million help you? Yeah, it'll help you get more fit. It'll help you get more women. It'll help you get whatever. It's just like it's a dumb. I don't know.
He clarifies this at the end. Let me finish real quick.
Okay.
He says nurture your own style and niche, and then leverage that to get pussy. Game will always have its use, but game plus fame will be the qualities that tomorrow's Casanovas possess. Otherwise, you'll be approaching all day and night to fuck a 6 who stops calling you after a couple of bangs. You must have the complete package to get the hottest girls, with game being only the first ability of a multi-level game warrior. Like, remember what he was saying? Remember what Hotep was saying before? It's like you got to be that Apex dude, right? Guys without game will simply not get laid, even with ugly girls. So there's your game right there, John. And here's how he finishes this up. He says the main factors driving the change is feminism and the uglification of the species. If you want to fuck average girls, game alone will get you there, but it will be increasingly difficult to fuck and keep attractive women since their numbers will be too low. Game and something else will be needed.
I see what he's talking about. You know what? John's right. You know what Roosh is describing? Be interesting and do cool shit. What guy doesn't do cool shit and is interesting in some form?
The only difference is like 10, 15 years ago, you still had to be interesting and do cool shit. The only difference now today is what girls will do is they'll put your number into Google, or they'll put your name into Google, and they'll see what your imprint looks like, right? Like they always do their recon.
Because your boss does that too.
Well, they do it more now, right? And a good social proof or a good influence out there, like Roosh is talking about, will maybe give you a 1-point boost advantage, let's say. Yeah, but it's always been relevant. It's just now more easier than ever and more relevant than ever today.
But Rich, even 10 years ago, I guarantee you, they were stalking your Facebook or your MySpace. They were doing that with mine.
Yeah, not as much as
he's right. He's right about all. He's right about all of this stuff, but the thing is, right, as John says, I mean, do you broadly speaking, the trends that he's describing, he's correct about. But having said that, does that mean there are no opportunities for guys? Absolutely not. It's ridiculous to think that. And even the thing about obesity, well, go to Ukraine, go to Kiev. You don't see much obesity there. I mean, if there's a global marketplace that benefits women, that global marketplace also benefits guys as well, if you know how to hack the system. So I think people can. I mean, it's funny because people say I'm negative. People say that we can be negative and sort of nihilistic in this sort of side of the manosphere. But I mean, for myself, I just think opportunity, man. There are massive opportunities still. You just got to get out there. You got to work out what they are. Get out there and take advantage of them.
It's always niches.
It just seems whiny, and he's always been a kind of a pussy whiny type. And
I didn't read the end of it. I probably should have, but I'll just paraphrase right here.
Just skip to the part where he has a meltdown and goes to Jesus.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's what it's funny because that's what I was going to talk about. Is like, here's a guy who had shit figured out, and where is it now? Like I keep saying that all the stuff that we're seeing going on in the manosphere, this fractioning of the manosphere. The schism of the manosphere is something that was actually what Roosh called it back in 2015. There's a schism in the red pill. It's exactly the same shit that's going on right now.
Of course, he created it. So
he created it, of course.
Not very prophetic.
He created neo-masculinity. Where did that go? Nowhere. That was only 5 years ago that he was doing that. Yeah. And now we're seeing, I think we're going into 2020, you're going to see, the God pill and the trad pill and everything else that comes out. And it's going to be this reheating of a neo-masculinity, except it'll be called neo-patriarchy.
I love how that turned into the Crusades, by the way. How now it's like Muslim Twitter and trad Twitter having at it.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of which, Aaron Clary, what do you think, Aaron?
Oh my God. I just want to say thank you for letting me on with this all-star rock star cast. You have lingerie models from Calvin Klein. You have the rock stars at the Red Pill and John. And so thank you for having me on. What's up, guys?
So what do you think, man? What was your highlight of 2019, and where do you see yourself and the Sphere going?
The highlight of 2019 was not having cancer.
All right.
Finding out I'm just getting old. That was it. That was definitely the highlight. The future of Red Pill, Manosphere, or whatever. It's not a sexy prediction. It's just I think it's going to be steady as she goes. The pendulum's still going to swing the way it's swinging. There's just going to be doubling down. Women are going to increase the volume. There will be some sensational, crazy news articles about how a new obscure way women are oppressed. Men will be doubly reminded that they are not needed, and it's going to drive. Yeah, it's just going to be a repeat, and they're going to drive men to masculinity. They're going to drive men to retreat unto themselves, and with women and family off the table for an increasing percent, they're going to say, well, what can I do? Well, most of them will go play video games, but for those of us who have that net out there, I think some of them will find us guys and go down a path of self-improvement, things like that. I also think, and at first that may seem bad, but it is what it is. But I think a positive, I'm really optimistic about this, is I think you're going to see an exodus, because men will be driven from it, from corporate America and the corporate world, because it's no longer meritocratic. They're going to say, well, fuck this. I can do this. And now with the internet, you can. So I think you will see an exodus towards what I like to call the 1099 superior race. You're going to have independent contractors, entrepreneurs. I think with a healthy dose of minimalism, men are, make $1 million if you can, but they're not going to have to. I think they're going to be happy just with their little bachelor pad and chilling out.
3/4 of the panel.
Yeah. I mean, even somebody like Modern Life John can attain some success traveling Wyoming,
sitting in Wyoming.
You never Cheyenne, Tokyo, same difference. Whatever.
Aaron, I'm working my way up to taking $2 bus rides like you. Okay,
that's Jedi Master level shit. Jedi Master level. Okay, shit. But that's
get on your Greyhound.
That's where I think that it's going. So. Not to sound too arrogant about our profession or us guys, but I think we're definitely going to be needed. There's new young men coming off the assembly line every day. They're brainwashed. They're indoctrinated. So our agency and purpose in the future in this particular little sphere of the interwebs is not going anywhere. And again, optimistically, I think the penetration rate, I did an article sometime trying to estimate what percent of men have taken a red pill, metaphorically speaking. And I estimated it's around 10 to 12%. And that's huge when you think 20 years ago was nothing. And now it's out there and you can't put it back. The genie's out of the bottle. And I think that will spread slowly but surely, like a case of herpes. It will get out there. And no matter what feminism, because they're already going at 120%. I don't know how much louder they could turn it up if they go any more to the direction of feminism and misandry. They're just going to look like buffoons pretty soon if they haven't already. So yeah, I'm optimistic. I think they will be driving people into the arms of reality and truth. As long as there's a place like that out there on the internet, they will find it.
Yep.
That's it.
Excellent. Cool.
More
Thanks,
positive
Aaron.
than Jack's one anyway.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Aaron. We appreciate you, man. We'll see you. We'll see you in 2020, my friend. We got to have you on again. We've had you on before, so.
Sounds good. See you guys
on. Great. Thanks, Aaron.
Later, Cappy.
Yep. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Man, I like that guy. It's so weird. I used to be the guy who was watching him on YouTube, and now I'm the guy here was talking, like inviting him on.
What's funny is like next to Sam Bada, who is probably in the chat right now, I've known Cappy the longest, I think, of anyone. I can remember being on the Roosh V forums when I was cool with Roosh, and it was me and Dalrock and Cappy and some other guys, so probably people don't even remember the names of, but he is a permanent fixture, I think. So let's see, who else do I got? El Bulgario, you're up, man. Abu American, you're on deck after that. So let's get El Bulgario.
It's like finding out you're on the cast of The Outsiders.
Yeah, you're on, brother. I know. What's up?
Muted.
Oh, no, he's good.
He's just quiet.
Yeah. Big guns. I'm fairly unknown.
The key to this country.
I can't hear anything.
We can't hear you,
Yeah,
buddy.
I'm sorry, dude. You're gonna have to come back with better mic, man. We can't hear you right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's pull him out real quick. All right, I'm gonna put in Abu American real quick. Hey, man, what's up, Craig? We got Craig back on with the green screen.
Walaikum salam.
What's up, dude?
What's up, guys?
How's it going, big guy?
Yep.
Good.
By
So
the
I
way,
just jump in?
congrats on the Muslim meme
Recap
that's going out now.
2019.
All right, thank you.
One wife.
Oh no, I can't do one wife. Sorry, it's not gonna happen.
So so Craig, I'll ask you the same thing here, Craig. And then again, remember we only got like 5 or 10 minutes here, but
all right.
I'll ask you the same thing. And then also, if you had anything to add to what Hotep Jesus was talking about, I'd be interested to see what your take on all that stuff was as well. I don't know if you caught that part, but
I was
Hotep
driving home at like breakneck speed to try and catch this.
all right. Well, where do you see the manosphere going in the next decade, really? But first start off with what was your highlight of this year?
Okay, so one of my highlights was actually being on with you. I think everybody knows that I'm a big fan of your works. You know, it made a huge change in the way I perceive, women and intergender dynamics, and it really like unlocked a lot of doors for me. I was always kind of a natural with women, and then understanding the dynamics and the science behind it really helped out. So that was a big highlight. Monetization was also a big thing. The interview with you led into that, and monetization, it isn't about the money. It's more about filtering out unserious guys. Unserious guys don't spend money, and it has freed up my time significantly. Yep. So I actually have my life back from like all these time wasters. It's a beautiful thing. And the guys who pay, they're serious, and they take your advice and they follow it because it has value to them. So that's something. Getting on with John and Dude Party. That's also a highlight.
Yeah.
Wild, man. Sometimes I'm just sitting there with these guys like, surprising me is very difficult, so it's really great. That's a highlight for me. As for the future of the manosphere, I talk about this a lot. I predicted back in December of 2018 everything that's happening right now with the entire what was that thing called? The thought audit. And when the thought audit happened, I saw that a schism was going to happen within the manosphere. And that video is still up on my channel, and everything has happened almost down to the letter. What I predict for the future is that schism is going to get even bigger, and we see it happening right now. I mean, we're getting groups that are breaking into smaller and smaller and smaller groups, and everybody's going. And I said this in the old video that you're going to get like groups that are going to break into smaller groups that are going to be viciously angry and suspicious of other groups and new individuals that come into the sphere. And as Red Pill and Manosphere goes more mainstream, more people are coming in. We actually have groups now that their entire specialty is just attacking Red Pill and Manosphere. Yeah. So
I think what we're seeing at the moment with the tradpocalypse over the last few days, with these trads and these patriarchs getting called out really viciously on Twitter, I think is just a taste of what's to come in terms of what you're saying. I think these divisions
ruined
just
Christmas, man.
Deeper. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think what we're going to see also is we're going to see an increase of Muslims coming into the manosphere. And I'll explain why. I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. But there are some like political and social changes happening in the Middle East that are causing a significant shift in the Muslim world. Saudi Arabia is basically the bastion of patriarchy has collapsed. I don't know if anybody knows this, but they're allowing women to drive. They've taken away the religious police. Free mixing is now allowed. They're having mixed music concerts in the nation of Saudi Arabia. Significant changes are happening, and this is of course going to have a knockoff and rollover effect to Muslims in general, who look to them as like the last bastion of Islam and patriarchy.
Yeah, that was my prediction, man. That they were just behind the curve. Once they got global, they were joining.
Right.
Yeah. And so what you find now is like there's sectors of Muslims that are actually fracturing also. And you have those highly conservative Muslims who are breaking off into groups. And you have those who are always looking for an excuse to, go harami salami, jumping ship. And so I think we're going to see more and more men from the Muslim world coming into the manosphere looking for ways to maximize their potential with the opposite gender.
Abu, you know what's crazy?
In the Muslim world.
You know how much like burqa porn there's out there now? Honestly, I made it like you just watch it all of a sudden.
Well, Mia Khalifa doesn't count. She wasn't a porn star, right?
But no, there's tons of it now, and that's like right there is kind of when I was like, oh.
Hey,
you know that for research purposes.
I'll write this down for research purposes.
I have a quick question for you, Greg. Do you think that the whole feminism and liberalism is starting to take in Saudi Arabia is going to continue in the direction that it's going, or do you think there's going to be pushback and it's going to go back to a more patriarchal, conservative sort of setup?
Well, from what I'm seeing from my sources in Saudi Arabia, some are Saudi, some are like expats living there. What's happening is you're finding families and communities are buckling down, but there's also those who are families and communities that were waiting for the floodgates to open. And so you're going to see some fractioning and divisioning going on there, but it is going to continue to head to a worse scale. Things tend to usually get worse before they get better. So in my humble opinion and in my estimation, it's probably going to get worse in Saudi. Yeah. Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, and I 100%, of course, I was saying pretty much the same thing back in 2018 with respect to the state of the manosphere. I kept saying this as well, and I tried to harp on about it, and I think maybe it was a self-fulfilling prophecy for myself. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the predictions that I made on the state of the manosphere talk, as well as the show we did last year. If I was wrong about anything, it was how fast it happened. I think there's so many guys just decided that, okay, it's 2019. Let's find some way to factionalize this or screw things up. And I think you're right. I think you're going to see a lot of guys, and it's been happening for a while, is you'll see guys who will try to build their brand of me around tearing down me or tearing down you or tearing down whatever it is, what sort of a thought process or whatever the red pill as a praxology is. And I think us even just trying to cling to it as being a praxology is going to be an
uphill battle.
It's an uphill battle, but it's also, because we call it a praxology, they'll attack that too, because no, it should be an ideology, and then come down to my level and we'll fight you on my level. We'll drag you into the dirt where we'll say, we'll make you a straw man and then we'll knock you down kind of thing. And we'll build a brand out of that.
Why would you make it an ideology though? I mean, you got Christians, hardcore atheists, Muslim men, all agreeing on the same points. Like, why would you want to screw that up with some stupid ideology though? Like right now, if you can apply it 100% across the board to men, like that's about as robust a system as you need.
Yeah, that's rare.
Yeah, 1 wife, 7 wives, no wives, it still works.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, and we were talking with Hotep Jesus earlier on this show, and he was talking about how he thinks that the manosphere is seen kind of negatively, I guess, in the mainstream, and that's always been the case, and it always will be the case. And Rich brought up also the fact that when you tell people something that conflicts with their ego investments in how the world should be, it's always going to be seen as misogynist or whatever. And I also, on another respect, I kind of get what he's talking about, because I've been trying to say, look, men and women are better together than they are apart. I really think that we are complements to each other. And if MGTOWs are going to go on, and for lack of a better term, MGTOWs are going to go on one side of the playground and feminists are going to go on the other side, it's like talking to these guys to say, hey, we need to come to the table so we can actually do something here. So we can actually have men and women coming together and forming families and having actual sex and all that other stuff. I don't know if that is going to, increasingly, I don't know if that's going to be possible.
In my humble opinion, it's also popular right now to attack the manosphere. People don't even know why. You could just look at some of the comments on Twitter and see how people are just coming at the manosphere. It's just popular, For whatever reason, Red Pill, from that movie, there was a movie that came out about a Red Pill, so a few interviews about PUA came out, and it became popular to attack them because that's what mainstream is doing. And so then, of course, you got guys that are out there trying to capitalize on that to look good with the ladies, because everything's a mating strategy, and generally, those guys over there, and so it's popular also.
Defending the thought audit. Yeah, I remember those ones. Oh yeah, that was your prediction too. I remember that.
Defending it.
Yeah, it came back from there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Craig, we really need to. I want to have you on as a panelist on this show for 2020, definitely. So, because I really value your input. I think you're also one of the highlights, I think, of 2019.
Oh yeah, dude, I want to pick your brain.
Right back at you, big guy. Yeah.
Hey,
I'm glad I'm glad to have you on board. So we'll probably be seeing a lot more from you in the future, I think. So.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Cool,
gentleman
man.
And a scholar.
Good, man. All right, we'll see you later. Bye. Awesome.
I like that guy.
All right, I have El Francisco, and I got the mighty Sam Bada on deck here too. Oh, and I got Chris Von Erich as well. So, So we are now at 2 hours, well, almost at 2 hours right now. And I just wanted to just throw out a few other ideas here as well as like, do you see any of the predictions that you guys made last year coming true? And if so, what do you think happened this year that you saw coming down the pipeline? And Rich, I think I know what you're going to say. But what were you accurate about?
Well, I saw a lot of shit happen. You know, it's just gotten worse though. It's just gotten worse, guys. It's not getting any better. It's not like, you know, the scenario has improved for men. We have a slight advantage or even a moderate advantage. It's just eroded because masculinity is on a decline. Men are getting weaker. You know, feminism is becoming more of a supremacy movement. There's a complete breakup in the manosphere, and there's a bunch of retards that are like collaborating together. But you know, birds of a feather flock together, sort of thing. But they're giving the group a bad name as a whole, as Hotep, you know, pointed out. Like, it's not viewed upon as a positive movement. It's viewed upon as a misogynist movement. Yeah, it's you know. People just don't get it, and I don't think people are going to get it for a long, long time. I think it's just going to erode and get worse. You know, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't see any improvement, and it's incredibly important that guys are more attentive than ever in today's world in 2020 to the truth that the red pill brings them and the enlightenment that it allows them to navigate the world in a much better way.
I think so too.
Can we give credit though to Pat Stedman, who finally started lifting weights?
Wow.
That deadlift was ugly,
that
but it
surprised me in 2019. Yes.
Did not see that coming. All because he wants to look better than you in a swimsuit.
Cool. All right, I got El Francisco on here. El Francisco, what's happening, man? You're up.
Hi there. How's it going?
Good. So what was your highlights for, introduce yourself, and then also what was the highlights of 2019 for you, and what do you see happening in 2020 and beyond?
All right. Well, the highlights of 2019 is I actually came across your books. I found them really interesting to read, and, you know, very eye-opening to say the least. Predictions is actually the prediction that I have has to do with your question, with some of a question that I had. So I'm sure you guys are aware of who Patrice O'Neill is. I was listening to some of his material, and there's a question that I have that's related to ego, where he, on certain instances, he mentions, hey, you should let go of this ego. His specific instance was when it comes to swinging. Now, I had sort of like a conflict in thought with it, because as you mentioned, you shouldn't really let go of your ego. So for myself and maybe other guys that may need to clarify this, how do you think ego will play a part in the coming decade or in the coming years with that lack of positive masculinity going around?
Okay, cool. And who was this you were talking about? I didn't catch that.
Patrice O'Neill.
Trace O'Neill? Oh, Patrice O'Neill?
Patrice O'Neill.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I've heard this before. And Francisco, I'll answer your question on the air right here real quick. So guys, about ego, this could be a pretty good show topic, I think, because I've seen a lot of guys in RSD say this too. You need to kill your ego. You need to ego. Oh, there's a book called "Ego Is the Enemy."
Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Yeah.
Ego is the Enemy by Ryan.
I didn't really like that one.
I did you?
No, I didn't really like.
You didn't really like that one. No. Okay, yeah, I didn't either.
He's done some good stuff in the past, though.
Well, and here's the thing: is because no one can actually kill their ego. That's the thing. Ego is a part of your psychology. It's a part of who you are and what you are. Ego is a part of personality. It's like id, ego, super ego, those kinds of things. Like it's an element. Whatever ego is, it is part of what makes your personality. So I think a lot of guys will say, well, if I kill my ego, then I'm outcome independent and I don't really care. Well, if you want to kill your ego, go start taking antidepressants. Go take SSRIs and you won't care about anything and you won't have an ego and your ego will no longer be a problem for you. And I think a lot of these guys do this, or they say, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could kill our ego? Or wouldn't it be great if we could kill our libido as well? Right? Wouldn't it be great if
There's some guys actually trying to do that now? Like they're actually trying to lower their testosterone and kill their libido.
Well, you know, that's funny. That was one of the predictions I was going to make for the coming year. Is that I think that you're going to see the same factionalization that we see right now in the red pill. I think you're going to see it happen in MGTOW, because there's the guys who are really the militant MGTOWs, the guys who just get a doll guys. And then there's the guys who are red pill MGTOWs who are like, well, I still want to talk to girls. I still want to have sex. I still want to do these things. And I think you're going to see a lot of infighting. And you just as there have been factionalizations from within what we call the manosphere or the red pill, I think you're going to see factionalizations in MGTOW as well. And a lot of that has to do with ego, with what guy who is MGTOW can still get laid and what guy who can't get laid. And you're going to see ideologies sort of build up around those things, because if there is an ideology, there's certainly ideology in the MGTOW community right now. So I think that what you're going to see is that factionalization, but it will be based on like there's the guys in the MGTOW who say, well, if you just put off women and you don't have women in your life anymore, you don't make them the measurement of your life, which of course red pill's been saying for ages right now. But if you go and you go monk mode and you go permanent monk mode, or you become a celibate and you go and get a cabin in the woods or something like that, those guys, that's like sort of a killing off of that ego. But my idea when it comes to ego is that you can't actually kill it. You can do whatever you want to it. You can aggrandize it or you can sublimate it, but you cannot completely eliminate ego. If you do, you probably die.
You need ego to do anything in this world anyway. I mean, you have to have a healthy dose of ego if you want to be successful.
I think there's a nuance about it, isn't there? Because RSD have said that about killing the ego, but at the same time, if guys misunderstand
it's ego investments that don't serve you that you have to kill, though, right?
At the same time, that can be damaging, because if you go in there with humility, which is kind of what it sounds like, then that may not serve you. Do you know what I mean? It's actually going to serve you better if you're showing a bit of edge, if you're showing a bit of what we colloquially call ego when you go into an interaction. So
I'm trying to think of a way to sneak a president joke in here, but I can't.
Well, you should kill that kind of ego.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think ego is a bad thing, to be honest with you. I think it's a good thing. I think it's what promotes it's what gives us a lust for life. Like, okay, on this panel, who has the biggest ego?
You.
No. You think I have a big ego?
In the chat, put the name of the person you think has the biggest ego in the chat. Do it right now.
In the chat. Let's see what name comes up the most often. Who has the biggest ego? I'm going to say John. And I'm going to say John because John don't care.
Let's see.
John does not care whatsoever. Yeah. Who has the biggest?
John's winning.
There you go. I'm going to say John because that's my vote. But yeah, everybody wants to say, oh, you're a
It looks like I got a close second, though.
Yeah, I would say John has the biggest ego. And there's nothing wrong with that, man, because that is what helps you succeed. That's what gives you drive. And
Rich is number 2.
On the panel.
I think 50% of this is because you have a lot of lovely lackeys out there in your cult, Rolo. So because you said John, they're like, okay, we gotta type John.
No.
But I mean, like Rich is coming up a lot too now as well.
I think that's part of it.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing, John, is I'm giving you a compliment. I think that ego is something that guys need to develop. I think and you help them do that.
Ego is attractive, isn't it? This is the thing. I mean, actually, we're drawn to people with big egos, unless you're an idiot and you start to call yourself the president of something that doesn't even really tangibly exist. I mean, there's got to be limits to it. You've got to be sensible. But in general,
you can definitely overdo it.
Yeah. But in general, ego, or sort of, I suppose. I mean, another way of expressing it might be narcissism or having some sort of narcissistic traits. I mean, that's actually an attractive thing, and it's actually something that we shouldn't be scared of. We shouldn't be scared of harnessing that energy,
Yeah, it's part of the dark triad. And why would you expect a girl to give a shit about you if you don't give a shit about you?
Yeah,
That's why I think messages like the ego is the enemy. I think messages like that are meant to control guys, to say, you know what, man down, to be more humble. If I was an alpha dude and I wanted all my cult members to be like little pussies, I'd say, you know what, we really need to kill our ego, except for me. That kind of thing. I would see that as a means of control. That's why when I read that, when I even just read the title of that book, I'm like, who isn't seeing this as sort of a means of predictability or means of control over a guy? So let's see. I have Sam. I see you in there, Sam. I've got Chris Von Erich and I've got Josh. These will be the last here. Chris has been waiting the longest, so I'm going to bring Chris on first. Chris, who of us has the biggest ego?
Oh, I was going to say that's a great segue for me to come in here. About ego.
Chris has his own show. You've got your own show now too, don't you? You've got a newer YouTube channel.
Yes,
right?
Yes, I do, and it's nothing like what you guys do. It's very much more like, I mean, the one guy talked about like Tom Likas and doing like the man show type stuff, and I guess my goal is to kind of intersperse little red pill kind of theories and topics through that stuff, and also talking about what you said, where do you want to go? What's the thing to do? Definitely getting out there, trying to get more mainstream. My goal is if I can bring people in from the outside and maybe even do interviews with them and kind of bring up little topics and see what they say about it and kind of get that out there. I think it could be a lot of help. So, but I mean, what I'm thankful for basically is making the contacts and professional acquaintances that I've done. Yourself, Rollo, having you on, Johnny. I think you guys do tremendous work, and I appreciate everything. And I get beat up online for defending you guys and telling people, wait a second, but it's okay. I don't mind it.
Yeah, Chris has been a sort of a permanent fixture in our chat rooms for a long time, and then he started his own channel. He invited me. I think, John, you've been on with him too, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so just so people know who Chris is. So Chris, I'll ask you what we've been asking everybody here is, what was your highlight for 2019, and where do you see 2020 and beyond going?
Yeah, very simply, again, getting things underway. Very much new to doing this, new to the environment. So I'm looking for good things to come ahead with that. And I think the big challenge is going to be with the media. I think, as always, the media is there to, swing the sledgehammer to, masculinity. We saw it with the Gillette stuff earlier in the year. And I think the big thing you're going to see, and this could be a prediction for you, I think either a TV show or a mainstream movie is going to show you whether it be poly relationships or even a situation where it's like, a straight guy and a trans dude. I think you're definitely going to see that. I think that's the way the mainstream is going to kind of try to get that idea floated in there.
So you think that it's like a lot, for lack of a better term, like it's
2.5 Men.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can see that. Definitely a good prediction. I think you probably will see that. Because remember when like Will and Grace was a thing, or Ellen DeGeneres, like seeing an actual openly gay person in a sitcom was something that was
weird. Ellen's gay? She's never mentioned it before.
And really, you think so? I think now we have to push that envelope, and it's going to be trans, or it's going to be something that's to in some way normalize that. I think you're also going to I'm just going to say pederasty. I think you're going to see pederasty become a sexual preference. They're already trying to find cutesy ways to make that happen. I think gender will be further distorted. We have 68 different genders right now. We'll probably have 102 by the end of this year.
I only disagree on the pedo thing, because I think Hotep was right with the middle-aged white women. I just don't think they're ever going to go for it.
Yeah.
They don't mind trans, because that's not my baby. That's their kids.
Right. Well, and I've said this before, is I think that the cutesy push to convince everyone that a 3-year-old kid can choose its own gender at that age is just the tip of the iceberg. I think that's part of a larger narrative and part of a larger social engineering effort that's going on. But yeah, Chris, I think you're right. I think the popularization of it will happen, whether it's on a Netflix special or it's on a commercial TV of some sorts. Actually, I think you're going to see commercial TV go by the wayside, and it's all going to be online streaming from here on out.
Yeah,
but that's great. Thanks, man. Thanks, appreciate it. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Rollo, I put a poll in the chat. Who has the biggest ego? And
am I winning?
I'm winning. Rich is in a solid second place, and then followed by Rollo.
But take that as a compliment, man.
I do. I'm just putting it.
I'm kind of with Troy here. I'm kind of offended.
I'm also kind of offended. I mean, I have got a really bloody big ego, but it's just I'm trying to be a bit polite because I'm one of the newer people on this panel. So
hang on a second. Let's see if this influences the poll. Fuck you, I'm better than you. That always seems to piss people off.
You can see, you guys, if you vote, you can see the.
There you go. See, I'm going up. I'm beating you, Rollo.
The
You know what's funny though?
Man,
Yeah,
I'm just right in the middle. I almost feel like I did bad.
I'm winning this one with 43, Rich 15, Rolo 11, Ryan 3, and then Troy 1.
Troy, you really need to work on your ego, man.
That's the problem is he's British, so he's very subtle about it. He's been
I'm just so zen, and I've completely eliminated my ego. So I'm just floating on a cloud here, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, I have Sam in and I have Josh in. I promised Josh I'd bring him on too, but I'm going to put Sam in real quick here. We're getting towards the end here. We're going over. I kind of knew we would, and I really want to save at least the last like 10 minutes for us. So, Sam Bada, my voice.
Teach me how to do that radio voice, Sam.
Yeah, how do I do that voice?
Hey, Sam.
Can we hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Hey, Sam.
So, one of the reasons they love on display, they've never seen balls on display before. But that's why I've now built the ultimate studio and created the perfect no distraction studio location and room, because it's time to be balls on display all the time, especially coming out, because the attacks are not just going to come from the normal sources, and they're not just going to heat up because of Agenda 2030. Google that. They're going to heat up from Christians. The church leaders are now aware of the popularity of Rolo, and they're going to try to have their piece in it. I mean, it's one thing to have the president of the manosphere, but once you get these religious guys that lead the mega churches who have sold their soul involved, it's going to be a mess. And that's why, most men in the U.S., but mentioning Jesus Christ in 2020 will become such an offense that it'll get you banned from everything. So I'm just speaking to the Christian men. You're going to have to take a side here. Is it Jesus Christ that brings you power that you have inside, or is Christianity just a thing that you call yourself? Because there's a big separation, because without Jesus, there is no power. But this is why I'm glad that Rolo is writing his book. And when I got that terminal illness diagnosis that's not contagious, that I was going to be dead within a year, and by this time I'm not supposed to even be sitting here walking, talking, doing anything, but the sales of the audiobooks have made it possible for me to get the treatments every day, and I'm good. But what I'm saying is that Rolo's book this year is the most important thing that is going to happen, because it is going to be the answer to all the attacks from all sides. And mark my words, this is the year that the Pope and Rick Warren are going to come out and announce that it's time for a one world religion.
God, that voice, I would follow you to war, man.
Yeah, well, and Sam, I'm glad you're saying that, because like I was saying before at the beginning of this podcast, is that I really think that we're really the decade for 2020 needs to be we need to get out of our little chicken coop here. We need to get out and reach other people that are outside the sphere. We can stay here and we can talk about hypergamy and we can talk about all this stuff. And what I find interesting is, like, when I go on Pat Campbell's show, or I go on Into the Gap, which are terrestrial radio shows, after those, I find that I get new people hitting me up, either emailing me or they're hitting me up on Twitter or whatever else. And these are just like, they're very small radio shows, radio programs, but it's reaching a broader audience. And because of that, I have like people who ask me questions about like, well, what's your book about? What's this about? You're saying something that I believe for a long time, but I was never able to put into words, those kinds of things. And it's great to get that influx of sort of new blood and new, people I think we really need to expand. And it's part of that. I mean, you already know this. My deliberate intent with book 4 is to reach that religious audience. And what I think is very interesting is that in the factionalization of the manosphere right now, all these guys are turning into, like, all the patriarchs, the neo-patriarchs are all very religious. If you go and you look at like all the guys who are on the speakers list for an upcoming convention, every last one of them, it's not about the red pill anymore. It's not about the manosphere anymore. It's about religion. Everything that they are talking about is about religion, whether it's, and I'm not going to name names here because I think you guys know who I'm talking about, but they're starting a church. They're not starting a men's group. It's not about masculinity anymore. It's about the it's about their whatever their spiritual belief set happens to be. And I
well,
really
the leader's
think,
assigned himself his own title, right? Like this grandeur sort of.
yeah,
title that he
he's
manufactured
feeling
out of nothing.
masculine. It's not about being masculine.
He's coronated himself is what he's done. And really, I see that a lot of the guys that have stuck with him are also some of the most like spiritual whack jobs I've ever encountered.
They're not too bright, let's be honest.
Yeah, and on top, well, I mean, let's just say
They're not
this is
smart
like for as much as I get accused of being like a cult leader, and this is an ideology. Yet when I see the speakers roster for the upcoming year, it's like they're trying to start a church, and from the guys that I see on there, and what I know about those guys, and what I see in their message all the time. And I'm glad you brought that up, Sam, because I think that not only is book 4 going to rattle the cages of mainstream religions, evangelical Christianity, and to mention a name, but also it's going to rattle the cages of these neo-patriarchs right now, and I think that's what they're really afraid of right now. I think they're really kind of shaking in their boots because they know what's coming up.
And make no mistake, they are an organized religion. That is an organized religion.
Well, I use organized loosely, but yeah.
yeah, the organization part, I don't know, but yeah, you are right, and you're right. Well, and that's the thing is, and I've always tried to stress the point that the red pill is a praxeology. I know Ryan has for a very long time. It's where we try to stay as objective as possible, and that was my primary goal in writing book 4, is to stay objective about this whole thing. But I really feel like from the very beginning of when I started writing that I needed to address this. I just was waiting for the right time, and I think right now is the right time. And I think you're 100% right about the idea of a sort of a unitary. I learned a new word. What was it? Dr. Piper taught it to me. He said it's synchronism, I think, or syncretism is what it is. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that word, but syncretism is the amalgamation of religion, culture, and philosophy to be sort of this all is one kind of thing. So like, it doesn't matter what you believe.
Catholic Church.
It's this. I don't even really want to call it Unitarianism, but it's like whenever I see like women get into positions of power in ministry, or they get into positions of power as church leaders or something, they always within 5 years of them getting into power in that particular religion, what they do is they change that religion so that it is more unitary, so that it's more inclusive, because they see it as a business anyways. So wouldn't it behoove that church as a business to have more asses in the seats? How do we do that? Well, it doesn't matter if you're like this, or you're like this, or you believe this, or whatever your beliefs are. Everybody come here. It's the big giant church of Oprah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I call the cult of the goddess. And I'll be getting into that in book 4. But Sam, I want to tell you this before we go. I really appreciate you, man. And I definitely want you as the voice on book 4 now too. So I'm just going to say that right.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you very much.
All right, man.
Nothing would have been possible without it.
See you, Sam.
Thanks.
See you soon.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Last but not least,
Man,
Josh.
I miss Sam. I haven't seen him in forever.
Hey,
I know.
Josh.
Josh. Josh is our screener and has been a part of really kind of this show, and certainly Rich is you've been using Josh for a while too. I think that's
Josh has been in my community for a while. He's a good guy. I met him a few months ago at a little bit of a meetup, but he's been screening a lot of calls for us too.
Yeah, he does a lot of work behind the scenes that I don't think a lot of people really know about. So Josh, what has been the highlight for you in 2019, and where do you see us going in 2020?
Well, I appreciate the kind words, guys. Highlight of the year is definitely joining Rich's 1% group. It's worth its weight in gold, the amount of access that you get to Rich and the guys that he has on, and just the other men in the group. I think what guys need more than anything else is we don't just need the knowledge, but we need the guys to talk to meet with, and to have that brotherhood, right? That's so fucking important. Excuse my French. So that's the highlight of my year for sure. Is and also just like we were talking about, you guys were talking about ego earlier. Just making myself that mental point of origin has just it's just improved my life so greatly. And then my prediction for what's coming up, it's not that good. You guys were just talking about religion. I think the religion of the left and socialism is super dangerous. I think people in the U.S. are a bit more safe, but I think we're going to see free speech in Canada and the UK stifled more than ever. A lot of what we're talking about right here and now is going to be considered hate speech in not too long. And yeah, unless things change dramatically, I could see just like, just what we're doing right now is hate speech. And, we could face criminal charges for it. It's happening. I mean, you look at Count Dankula in the UK, who made a joke. There was a comedian in Canada who made a joke about a Make-A-Wish kid. Hell, I was a Make-A-Wish kid, and I thought it was fucking hilarious. So, like, and that guy's facing jail time or like a $50,000 fine. It's ridiculous. But
Dude, can I just say that Expos pennant behind you there? That's awesome.
That's old school.
Thanks,
That's
man.
old
Yeah.
school. is there like a Nordiques one underneath it? Because that would be cool.
No, it's I got the old school like Brewers and Tigers and
Hartford Whalers.
Yeah, more baseball than anything else in here. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Josh, you do us a lot of work and a lot of favors, and I just want to let you know that that has been one highlight of my 2019 is sort of getting to know you and getting to know what your story is, and just like having you as a source, as a resource for all of this has been great. So I just want to say thank you for what you do.
Well, it's been my absolute pleasure. Like I said to you once in the chat, if I can help the helper of men, for sure, I'll do it anytime.
Great. Thanks, Josh. We really appreciate you, brother.
Happy New Year's, guys.
Thanks, Josh. Take care, buddy.
Peace.
All right,
Dude,
guys.
I love some of these guys' accoutrements, man. That's some cool stuff.
I know, right? They got great studios. I was thinking about putting some soundproofing behind me. Like,
Get your Warhammer flag back.
I have that downstairs, and that's going to be part of what I'm going to be doing.
Of course, you got it in the basement.
Coming
of course
months.
you do.
Yes. No, it's down. It's with my Slayer flag that Jack Napier gave me. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Troy sanitized the hell out of his background. I know there's some cool. Is there at least a poster of the Queen up there somewhere?
Man, there is. I can't turn the camera.
Mary.
I can't turn the camera around because the degeneracy just over there is just it's too much for you guys to take. So I'm just keeping it with the Virgin Mary, and that's all I'm showing.
Well, I think what Josh was saying, that's actually something I wanted to mention is, I think going forward, us getting together, and I mentioned this in 2018 as well, is that guys getting together, like having male space, having conversations, being able to actually, compare notes is something that I think will be a part of what he was saying is it will be hate speech, or it will be in some way it'll be limited. And I think that also gets back to the vulnerability of us being on platforms like YouTube, on platforms like Twitter and that. And one of my predictions, I think for the coming decade is we're going to see the rise of sort of alternative platforms for this kind of talk. And you want to talk about factionalization within the sphere. I think you're going to see factionalization on the internet as well. You're going to see guys. I really think that because of this polarization between, people with differing ideologies, I think you're going to see polarization in what kind of jobs you can get, who you can work for, how you can work for them, what you can say, what you can't say.
God, it's like that movie Gattaca.
Yeah, Gattaca will be that. Oh, it's funny you should mention that, because I also see that we don't have the technology yet, but I do think that we will see gene editing within the next 10 years, where we'll be able to make decisions based on what our ideologies are. That's one of the reasons why I'm writing this book also is right now, the ideologies that we talk about, whether that's religious, whether that's personal ideologies, whether that's what we believe about intersexual dynamics, I would certainly say that. What we think about LGBTQ, what we think about all of these things that are going on, the conversations and the debates that we're having right now, the polarization that we're having right now is going to become very, very real, I'd say, within the next 10 years. Because once we are able to find out, like, how can we make the perfect baby? How can we make sure that our babies are the master race, right? How can we make sure that they have blonde hair and blue eyes, and they're all heterosexual? And
do you guys remember episode 1 Red Man Group when I called abortion like crowdsourced ad hoc eugenics programs?
It's eugenics, yes. Well, yeah, and I still think it's true, and I think that you're going to see more and more an intensification, I think, of what I think it was Abu American was saying, is you're going to see this intensification of the Pink Pussy Hat Brigade. You're going to see that is going to, and it's going to be more in your face. Right now, they're already saying, I am God, I am God. And I don't mean that in a religious sense. I mean, they think of that in the sense that it's a cultural appeal to women's solipsism, I think, is going to be what we're going to see in the coming years.
Thing is, though, I think a lot of guys are like Trudeau is a great example of taking advantage of that. He's pro-feminism, everything. But what did he do? 2 chicks got out of line and he fired their ass.
Yeah.
And he got to the point now where he's getting every other party to throw a woman in front of their party right now. Like he's running a soft political harem. So I think there's going to be a small group of guys that are going to capitalize.
I think you're going to see more and more women get into politics, and the feminine imperative is going to, in some
Arguing
way,
for a living. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, of course. Right. I think you're going to see female supremacism reach heights that we didn't think were possible. I think we're going to
biblical proportions.
Biblical proportions. Yes. And of course, we're going to see the end of an empire, right? A new world order. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. We are past the 2-hour mark, and I kind of knew we would. Do you guys have any closing thoughts for 2020? Rich?
Closing thoughts for 2020 are make yourself your own mental point of origin. Make sure you disconnect from the BS. And do the work, guys. There's a lot of guys that sit here in the chat that watch our content, that are interested in what we're talking about, and too many of you, I'm going to say this again, too many of you are sitting there's a fly on the wall and not taking action. If you've never cold approached a pretty girl at the Starbucks, say, hey, what's up? What are you reading there? Right? If you're working a 9-to-5 job that you hate, figure out what it is that the next step is going to be for you to create some kind of a business or a side hustle where you can level yourself up and put your dent in the universe. Stop. I mean, only the dead fish will get pushed downstream, right? You're going to have to do some work on yourself. So there's some guys right now that aren't going to like me saying this, but 2020 is a brand new decade. Get out there, go do some work. If there's something you wanted to do, as far as I know, this is the life that I get. You're dead, you're in the ground, that's it, we're done. If there's a bonus round, let's do it. Awesome. But right now, this is your life, guys. Go live it for yourself. Make yourself your own mental point of origin. Done.
All right. Troy.
Yeah, that's all great stuff that Rich has just said. I think we're seeing further divisions within the manosphere space. So we've got the tradpocalypse that's going on now. We've got the conference that shall not be named that seems to have taken the redneck pill as opposed to the red pill in advance of of election season. There's all of that BS going on. I think in the end you've got to play your own game. So you've got to think, you've got to get to know yourself. You've got to understand. You've got to think, what do I actually want from life? What are the best strategies for me to get that? And realize that there's massive opportunity out there. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, those challenges are going to increase because of technology, because of society, because of politics, because of all these different things. But man, there are just so many opportunities out there, and you can grasp those opportunities, have an amazing life. So make 2020 the year that you begin to do exactly that.
Hey, sorry, I forgot to mention, guys. I just recorded a bunch of videos the other day in my car on the red flag chapter that I put out, and I'm going to start putting some of those ideas into videos. So I've just released the first one now. So if you go to my channel after this broadcast, you'll see it. I'd appreciate a like and a comment on it. Thanks.
Cool. Ryan.
Yeah, honestly, stop paying attention to what people are telling you. It's all about OODA loops. Observe, orient, decide, act. You do those faster, you'll be fine. As far as this manosphere infotainment thing, take it for what it is. It's like simulated real world interactions. I think you could learn a lot from watching the Spurgouts and the various beefs. Tone it down to 3 and apply it to your life. Just focus on what you want out of life. And if you don't know what you want, get enough options so that when you do figure it out, you can at least go after it. Everything else is just details or infotainment. Don't take it too seriously. And don't fuck dolls, man. Like, I don't mean it as like it's not a character thing. It's just like, no, the real ones are pretty good. Even the chubbier ones are fine. Just, dude, don't fuck dolls. I'll leave on that.
Wow. John, go ahead.
Just very simple. Going into 2020, just know this, guys. The scariest thing about life is not that everything you want can't come true. The scariest thing is everything that you want can come true, and it doesn't become true if you do not do the work yourself. So, I mean, coming from a guy who's literally came from nothing, like poor as hell when we were little, didn't ever met my dad, abusive household, the whole 9 yards, able to turn around and like live like my wildest fantasies, traveling all over Asia, all over South America, all over the world, really, speaking multiple languages, dating a bunch of women, and making money and living life on my terms. if I can do it, certainly you can do it. So the only difference between you and me is I probably already put in the work. Stop making excuses. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Nobody cares. Okay. Nobody doesn't. That's the hard truth there. Nobody cares about your troubles. So just do the work and it can happen. And if you don't, somebody else will do the work and they will take away what you had never, I mean, what you wanted to get. Like you don't, what do they say? Like, those people who do not chase their dreams end up working for those that do. And, you know, you don't want to be that guy. Trust me. I've seen it happen to these guys older in life, you know, 40s and 50s, and their life is completely trash. And then they're like, where did my life go? I like, you know, take action now, do it now. And it can happen. Dude Party's about to go live on my channel. Body Language Mastery is open for enrollment until Monday. And yeah.
All right, brothers.
Oh, and John and I are going to do a broadcast tomorrow on my channel on BLM and just kind of shoot the shit about stuff too.
So the last thing I want to say here, and I want to give the guys who have stuck with us. I mean, we started this Rule Zero thing where we're passing it around amongst each other. We started this back in like July, I think. So we've only been around for maybe 6 months. And I think that it's really snowballed into what I think we all expected it could and what it can still be. And so for my predictions or what I'm going to be doing, what I promised you in 2020 is I promise you a new book that's coming out. Obviously, that's going to be something. I think that's going to be a big deal. Hopefully, we'll see how that works out. So I promise you a new book. I also promise you guys some good one hit wonder, quick hit videos. Less about the chat, more about actionable information. I'm also going to be doing an Anchor podcast, which is just straight audio, because I had a lot of requests from guys who want to just hear what it is that we're talking, either this show or myself, whatever, want to hear just the audio. So when they're in the gym or they're on their commute or whatever, they want to be listening to this stuff. I'm happy to oblige. So I'm going to be doing that. That's going to be something that's coming up in this year. In January, well, actually, I should say I'm actually on Tuesday. I'm flying down to Las Vegas because I got to go work a gig, and then I will be in Vegas for about a week there. Watch for my channel for some videos from there. Also, I'm doing an interview, and I haven't even told any of you guys this, but I'm doing an interview while I'm down there with a fairly widely known. Let's just say interviewer. So a guy who has
Larry King?
And not Joe Rogan. I'm sorry, no, but I'm doing an interview with a guy who has 2.5 million subs on his channel. So watch for that. I will give
Spill
you guys
the beans. Roll up.
I'll tell you who it is when the
Keemstar.
time is right. I don't know when. I don't think it's going to be live, so I don't know when he's going to publish it. But when he publishes it, you guys will know firsthand. I'll let you guys all know. So I'll be doing that interview while I am down in Vegas. So it's kind of a working. Well, actually, it's a nothing but working trip for me. And then in March, look for a documentary that I will be in, and it will be published in March. There will be some notables in this particular documentary. I've told you guys about it, but I haven't told anybody. I haven't gone public with this, but I will be in a documentary on it. They're telling me March is when they're going to produce it, or it's going to be published. So watch for that. I think that 2020 like I said, my effort is to get out there and to reach the unchurched, I guess, to get out there and to get into different spheres that aren't just the manosphere. So those are my more recent things that I'm going to be doing. And then what people have constantly asked this, and we have all talked about this. And I'll be having a 4th book out, so I will be doing a book tour, because I know people have been asking me about that. I will be doing a book tour. I don't know what the dates are. I don't know where I'm going to go just yet, but as soon as the book is published, I will be planning a book tour and going and doing some speaking engagements. But speaking of speaking engagements, we are in the process. We're in the larval stage right now of setting up some kind of get together, some kind of meetup, we don't know what it's going to look like. We're not calling it a convention. We're not calling it anything right there, but people have been asking us since as far back as July if we were going to do something collectively where we can all get together and talk to guys live in real time. That is in the works. So I'm not going to promise to you a date, but I will promise you that we will try.
Yeah. Well, we all want to do it right. None of this Florida 2.0 crap.
Yes, we're not trying to follow in anybody's footsteps. We're just going to do it because the demand is there. And I know that John really wants to do so. He's done his own hot dude cons and stuff like that as well. So I don't know if it'd be called Hot Dude Con, but we'll do something, some sort of workshop, some sort of live get together, some sort of meetup. And that is, I guess, sort of in the planning and the larval stage right now. So just so you guys know that we hear you, and we will do our best to accommodate. So that has been our year-end wrap-up. Guys, thank you for joining me on this. I think we should do this yearly. I think this is something we need to do all the time. It's great to have all these guys. Everybody was a guest. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing what you're going to be doing and where you see things going. The most important part of all of this, whether you want to call it the Manosphere or Rule Zero or whatever, the most important part is that you're having these conversations. And I'll leave you guys with this is in the introduction of every one of my books, I say the most important thing for you to do with that book or to do with this information is to pass it on. And you've got to pass that book on to somebody else, and you've got to pass that information on to somebody else. Because as you guys know, I'm not an MRA. I'm not a top-down guy. I'm a bottom-up guy. So when it comes to each one tell one, when it comes to spreading, changing hearts and minds, I guess I don't know how the hell that works, but each one needs to tell one, whether that's your son, whether that's your best friend, whether that's your dad, whether that's whoever. You owe it to yourself to have an obligation to the truth, and you owe it to yourself to pass on what you have learned here to other people, because it's very likely that any one of us might not be here next year. And it's very likely that we might not have a platform next year. And it's very likely that we might be thrown into some, internment camp for red pill guys to re-educate us. Who knows, right? But it's possible that we will lose our voice. So it's important that you guys maintain that and carry on that voice no matter who is here and who is not. So that's what I'm going to leave you guys with. Guys, thanks for joining me on this broadcast. And I will be on tomorrow with Pat Campbell for my Red Pill 101 regular time. And join me next week. I will be doing my show, but it will be live from Las Vegas. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Peace out.